Great Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome back. Sandy and Elsten, your midday hang here with you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Alongside Annie Halbern, I'm Craig Elsten. Braden Soprenet has called in sick today. He was reporting a scratchy throat yesterday, the bane of radio existence, a throat-based ailment. And as such, our man Adam Klug is stepping in and settling into the producer's chair and the third chair in the studio. Good morning, Adam.
Hey, guys. I'm actually happy to be here.
Thanks for being here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. We are thrilled to have you here, and we're ready for 4 hours of live local San Diego sports talk radio for you, rolling till 2 o'clock. Gwen and Chris will be in for a full show. At that point, Matt Scraby will wrap up the day, shrouded in darkness, with the Scraby Show from 6 to 7. We've got plenty to get through today. Thought we were going to have SDFC head coach Mikey Vares on the show making his debut. He just got back stateside yesterday from an international trip. So unable to make it today. We're hoping to get him on a little bit later in the week. But if you did happen to hear that promo in the last half hour, said some SDFC talk. There it was.
It'll come another day.
There it was. There was your talk for the day. Not here today. Hope to be there, tomorrow or another day later in the week. Nonetheless, we got plenty more to get to. Let's just go ahead and knock out the World Series here off the top, Annie. World Series, which I knew was done on Freddie Freeman's homer. That turned out not to be hyperbolic or be a negative Nancy take. It was true. This was over on the Freddie Freeman homer in game one.
Freddie Freeman has just been dynamic, fantastic, and I know there's a lot of non-Freddie Freeman likers. I really like Freddie Freeman, had the chance to interview him a few times, and he was wonderful. So for him to kind of go through what he did with his son Max this year and the difficulty with his family and then the injuries, you hate to see it for the Dodgers, of course, but Freddie Freeman is having the playoffs of his life, right? So I don't know, Adam, as much as he did last time, with the Braves.
It's painful. It's painful as a Padres fan to watch the Dodgers do this. It's painful as a Braves fan to watch Freddie Freeman do this. And I want to at least couch that by saying painful. He's a great guy, does great work in the community everywhere he is, obviously a great family. I was glad to see him have that moment, the grand slam, because that's something you dream about your whole life, and as a kid, bottom of the whatever, bases loaded, 2 outs. But he should still be with the Braves, and I hate that the Dodgers are on the verge of winning the World Series.
Yeah, it sucks. It does suck, and that's the thing. This Dodgers team, really the most improbable Dodgers team that we've seen of recent years to be in this position, because we've seen so many stronger Dodgers teams. And of all the teams, in recent years, it's this one you thought was going to be out by the NLDS. They weren't running away with the division. They were having all those pitching problems, but they are a team that knows how to make it work. They are a team that has the ability to manage effectively, even in times that they are not having their full roster the way that they want it. But you really haven't had this World Series. I'm looking at the wind-up here from The Athletic, and the title is Why This World Series Has Underwhelmed. And it really has been they call the Dodgers boring good, which is true. They're just,
It's 100% accurate.
They're just boring good. They're going to be good every night. And the Yankees are underwhelming, and the Yankees have not put up any fight. And Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge have really not done a whole lot at all. So this is not the matchup that was promised when you were looking at these two juggernauts and looking at the superstars and everything. But man, the Yankees are in a tough spot.
Yeah, the Dodgers haven't lit the world on fire. Mike Petrello had this tweet earlier today, and it lines it out perfectly to me. The Dodgers are hitting .213 in this World Series. As a team, the Dodgers, .213. The Yankees are hitting .186.
That's not good.
These are two teams that are not hitting the ball at all. The difference is very simple. In 3 games, the Dodgers have 11 extra base hits. The Yankees have 5. Ball go far, team go far. It's one of the oldest axioms for modern baseball in postseason, and it's always the truest. The team that hits the most homers, the team that has the ability to slug, is going to be the team that's going to prevail at the end. And the Yankees have straight up no-showed this World Series. Since the decision in the 10th inning and the grand slam, the Yankees have been a complete no-show. But to be very honest, their offense was a no-show in Game 1 as well, and it has been most of the postseason, to be honest. The Yankees had a garden path, as it turned out, facing a Royals team that had played to the absolute end of their abilities to get as far as they got. A Guardians team built on a bullpen with no offense, and then the bullpen fell apart. Like, okay. Those are two opponents that you want to face on the way to the World Series. By contrast, the Dodgers faced the second best team in baseball, the San Diego Padres. And I'm convinced of that now beyond any doubt, seeing how everything has played out. The Mets would have been an easy snack. The Yankees are a straight up cupcake platter, just waiting to be eaten. I mean, that's it. They don't have it. They don't have the team. The Dodgers are a good enough team, but they haven't really done anything that exciting. The one thing I would say to tip the cap is that the problem that LA was supposed to be held back by is the thing that instead has been excellent for them.
More so than the Yankees, which was supposed to be their strength.
Right. Walker Buehler outpitched Clark Schmidt by a great margin yesterday. It's supposed to be the opposite of that. Yamamoto was supposed to be a real weakness, but as point of fact, he has turned up in each of the 3 series with gigantic starts. Yamamoto has. Turns out, there you go. The money you paid, you got the return. Yamamoto's been great. And Flaherty delivered a huge start in Game 1 of the World Series here. He's been generally excellent for the Dodgers. The only team that's been able to get to their pitching, their starting pitching, was San Diego. The Mets didn't get to the L.A. starters. They got to those bullpen games. They knocked around the bullpen game a couple of times. And today, the Dodgers pitch a bullpen game.
The Mets did get to Game 6. I mean, the Mets-Dodgers did get to a Game 6. It wasn't like a total rout, but you never really felt like the Mets were the superior team in that one. You know?
Because L.A.'s 2 bullpen games blew up, right?
Exactly.
Dalton Knack throwing cheese.
Yeah. And so you wondered, like, is there a chance that, L.A. could maybe their pitching could end there, right? Like, how long can this pitching last? But yeah, for sure, coming into this World Series, the Yankees, their strength was the pitching. It was supposed to be, what they could hang their hat on, and really hasn't been, and for all the reasons you just mentioned. And then the bottom of the lineup, not good, and then the top of the lineup, sometimes not good. They get guys on base. They're not able to drive them in. They have errors. They've played streaky defense. They should have won that game on Friday night. I think it would have been a different World Series if not for that grand slam, the first in history, by Freddie Freeman. But it should never have gone to extra innings. If they would have just been able to effectively throw that ball from left field to second base, you wouldn't have probably gone to extra innings, So things like that happen. That's baseball. But the Dodgers have to be thinking about that too. Like, of all their teams, I don't buy that they were believing that I think that a lot of their players were probably thinking in September, crap. Like, we might make it. We're probably going to make it into the playoffs. But, like, I'm sure that they believed in each other. But, there's always that thing in the back of your head that's like, do we have the roster this year? Do we have the team? One guy goes down. The next guy goes down. Freddie's ankle, whatever, So I think even them, they're kind of looking at it like, we didn't expect this year to be the team. But, hey, adversity. Ken Rosenthal, by the way, wrote a piece about the Yankees today. Now, he's not on the Yankees sideline. He is on the Tom Verducci is on the Yankees sideline.
Who's the dancing peacock?
He didn't have a dancing. He played it much more straight this time.
Oh.
Much more straight.
Shocker.
It was about the abysmal showing of the New York Yankees and Judge. How do you look at Aaron Judge now, and all of that stuff? You can read it in The Athletic if you want. But I thought, okay. I guess you can do. I think it's less terrible if you're doing that and you're on the other sideline. But at the same time, you're still in this position where you're still covering this World Series, and you're supposed to be covering kind of both teams. Although Tom Verducci does have Yankees duties. Anyways, he calls it an abysmal failure. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing him.
Sure. Well,
the
but they made the World Series, so they made the World Series, and in that sense, they did something really important. Here's the thing I want to take away from this, and building more off the first half of what you just talked about what was going on with the Dodgers and how unexpected it was, right? How it would, not exactly the year that you planned. The takeaway that I get from this, that I feel can be applicable to the San Diego Padres, is as follows. Let's stop talking about all in. All in implies that you can, as a good strategy in Major League Baseball, trade away everything, make your team unwieldy in future years, but put all the chips on that one stack, right? Line them all up on that one spot on the board and make your best team, the best team you've ever made, right? That's the way to do it. Hey, we can't be there every year, but we're going to go all in. Well, guess what all in gets you? Gets you a 3-game series. It gets you a 5-game series. It just puts you in the randomest of random postseason tournaments, the baseball playoffs. That's not the way to win the World Series, and that's the lesson you can get from the Dodgers that won 112 games, 108 games, 106 games.
Led the division by 22 games.
Right. Best team. Oh, and we got Max Scherzer. Best team, and we got Scherzer and Turner. Yeah, you didn't win. You didn't win. This year, you won. What's the carry away from that? That you just got to get in.
Yeah.
Get in over and over and over again. And one of those times, the tumblers fall your way. The tournament goes your way. It's your year. You make it to the World Series, and you have the ability to win it. That could have been us this year. It turned out not to be us this year. But I have heard from some very smart Padres fans who believe, like, next year is the only and the last year for the Padres because everyone's going to get older. The contracts are going to get bigger. You know, the performance is going to wane. So we got to go all in. Trade anything that's, trade Salas, trade DeVries, trade anything that's not locked down. Get this team this year. And I'm here to say no. Though in this tournament, the way they've built it with the rules they have now, the goal needs to just be in the tournament year after year, not we're going to really take this one huge shot, and then that shot's going to cost us the next 3 years to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Look, what we've learned, too, this year is that the regular season matters in terms of getting in the playoffs. It doesn't matter a whole lot beyond that. Like, yeah, you have special moments, and you have fun at the games, and there's ups and there's downs, and we're going to cover every single game because that's what we do, and that's like the fun of baseball, and you get to celebrate little wins along the way that each player has or cool storylines. But once you get in, it wasn't the best teams in the regular season necessarily that are in the World Series right now. Maybe they had obviously, the Dodgers led the National League in wins, but they weren't their best Dodgers team, right? They had vulnerabilities as well. What happens in the regular season should only matter as much as getting you into the dance and giving yourself a foundation to be able to build upon. In terms of, and like practicing, maybe like strategies or ways that you're, able to mentally set yourself for the playoffs or whatnot. But if I'm AJ Preller, I am going to look at the Padres and be like, we're going to be as crafty and as creative and as like undercutting in the sense of like, you're not even going to see us coming, sort of. You know what I mean? Like, be cunning over there. Like, kind of don't look at the Dodgers. Don't try to emulate your team after the Dodgers or the Yankees or whatever. Like, be the best you can in that category in San Diego and like what you can formulate, and AJ Preller's pretty good at that. So I think that's kind of where they have to focus and then get yourself in the dance. Absolutely. You get in the dance. We talked about it yesterday, the short playoff series, the ability to just have a good series or get on a hot run, get hot at the right time. That's everything. And I don't know that the Dodgers are going to make the World Series every year. I think that they'll win, but I don't know that they're going to make the World Series every single year. You still have a chance as long as you get in the playoffs.
No, I don't think they will every year. But I'm also willing to completely look at this with cold and clear eyes and recognize that they've got about a $500 million monetary advantage on us year over year for the entire decade, because it's not just the Time Warner money, it's also the number of corporate sponsorships they're receiving from the country of Japan for Shohei Ohtani, which continues to play out as literally more Japanese watch these games at 9 a.m. Than Americans do watching in prime time, and that's a fact, actually.
But again, in the NLDS, I felt like the roster cost didn't matter.
No,
the Padres could have won.
Sure, no, absolutely. That and Annie, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. All the structural advantages that we can admit that LA has, that's going to allow them to win the National League West every year, in perpetuity. They'll win pretty much every year, the National League West.
Unless there's some crazy injuries or something. But even then, I don't know. They had those this year. They had a guy
Right.
with a torn esophagus eating a tortilla chip.
They
You
start
know?
they start with a $500 million advantage over every other team in their division, including the Giants, including the Diamondbacks, including us. So, but with that said, that's not doom, because a 5-game baseball series
Yeah.
is an equalizer.
It's anybody's game, yeah.
It's the ultimate equalizer. And when you get there, you can beat a $100 zillion, billion, zillion, gajillion dollar team.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that. It's happened over and over again. Does it mean that the Dodgers are going to ever be bad for 3 years? No, they won't. They're going to just be good every year, as long as this apparatus remains in place, as long as these financial vehicles remain in place. They're going to be good every year. But doesn't mean that you quit. It doesn't mean that you stop or you give up hope, because a 5-game series is always going to be open for
Yeah.
business.
And if you're the Padres, you got to get in. And what we've seen of them of the last 5 years or so is it's a year in the playoffs, it's a year out. So for them, you got to look at this like you got to break that trend
Correct.
and buck it and get in 2025.
Yeah, and figure out a way to be flexible, dynamic, and able to move, nimble
Yeah.
year after year. We tried to play on the high roller table for a couple of years and stack up gigantic 12-year contracts. That's not the way to build. It's not the way to build consistently. LA can afford to do it. We can't. That's the whole thing. Like, you can go sit down at the $100, $200 table at blackjack, for a minute. If you got $2,000 on you, you can sit down for a minute. But when you lose, it really hurts you.
The next day, you're really feeling it.
When you lose, it's a real problem. Whereas the guy who's got $1 million sits down, and the 2,000 is forgotten the second it's on the table, and therefore you can play better. We got to take a timeout. When we come back, a little bit more baseball talk for sure, including Aaron Judge, who's got to be in it up to his
How will this affect him?
eyebrows right now, like career altering in it. For the way that this is happening, I'll give you a historical comparison that's pretty apt. But also, when we come back, something, I'm not going to say it like shot me up in my bed in the middle of the night last night, Annie, but something kind of rang a bell in my head. We better do this right now. And here's why. It involves our Padres. It's really, 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 really important. We'll tell you when we come back. Annie and Elsten, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Sam Levitt dropping by the studio. He was on with Ben and Woods earlier this morning. Always good to see Sammy.
Good to see him and see him in the flesh.
Yeah.
You know, he should be relaxing, getting away a little, but he's doing some stuff.
This is the time for him to take up hobbies. I think we discussed this toward the end of the year. Like, now's the time he should, take up golf, consider any dietary things he wants to
I
change.
think he plays pickleball.
There you go. Refine your pickleball game.
Really work on the technique.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I mean, don't just be there to play. Be there to dominate, right? Good to see Sammy.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to forget the tease. I'm going to pay off the tease for anyone who hung through the break here on Annie and Elsten. Waiting on my words, hanging on my words. It occurred to me last night, recognizing that L.A. was up 3-0 in the World Series, that the Yankees have pulled the proverbial parachute, and this thing is going to coast to a finish. The baseball season, in all likelihood, will be done tonight. If not tonight, tomorrow.
You want the Dodgers just to sweep and get it over with?
Yeah,
I'm like, come on, Yankees, just give us hope.
I mean, listen, it'd be the funniest thing ever if the Yankees won the next 4 games.
It would be amazing. Are you kidding?
It'd be the funniest thing
If I
ever.
felt like the Yankees were, if they looked like they were putting up a fight,
Right.
you would feel like, okay, maybe they have a chance.
Yeah, but they don't.
Maybe they'll take off the turtlenecks. Did they wear the turtlenecks
That
last
would
night?
be so funny if they just took off the turtlenecks.
Take them off, man.
Yeah. So nonetheless, if it's not over tonight, it's probably over tomorrow night.
Probably.
It's very rare that a team down 3-0 even makes Game 5.
I don't think it's happened that a team down 3-0 has won, right?
No, they've never won the
a
World Series.
If
They've never won the
anybody
World
knows
Series.
about overcoming a 3-0 deficit, though.
No,
Yes.
that's right.
Well, I mean, Aaron Boone would know.
It's Aaron Boone and the
Aaron Boone
Yankees,
would know.
right?
And Dave Roberts.
Yes.
And Dave, yep,
Right,
yep,
on the other
yep.
side.
So let's go Yankees.
So exactly, what player is going to randomly steal a base in the 11th inning today that's going to allow
Wouldn't that
the
be
Yankees
great?
to win? It would be hilarious.
It'd be hilarious.
Nonetheless, when the baseball season ends, this month ends, Reuben Niebla's contract ends with the San Diego Padres. He's on his last days as a Padre employee right now. And yes, we heard encouraging words last Monday from A.J. Preller, who, when he was asked specifically about Schilt or Niebla, brought up the whole staff, right? And said, we love the contributions of the whole staff, and we are working to bring everybody back. And, we'd love to, bring them all back. Great. But it wasn't like, we're talking to Reuben right now and we're going to get something done today. Okay, well, we feel a little confident because Reuben, San Diego roots, family's here, got the lab at Point Loma. It's got to feel like a cousin to him, if not a child, right? Like he feels well entrenched here. He wouldn't leave San Diego, would he? Well, what about for his original manager, who would probably have the latitude to give him every title possible in his organization to make it a promotion, to come to Cincinnati? Yeah, Terry Francona's back, gang. Tito is back. He's rehired. He's done with his health pause for his career. He's one of the most decorated, popular, likable managers in the 21st century of Major League Baseball. And he's got a close personal working relationship with Reuben Niebla. All right? It's go time for A.J. Preller. Get this done today. Today. Get this done today.
Yeah, a few things there. So one, sometimes AJ Preller, that's how he talks, and we know that. You know, he doesn't always. He's not giving away anything. So they might have already secured a deal, and they just have to sign on the dotted line, and they might be in talks as we speak, or they might already have their numbers and they've agreed, and they just have to formalize it. They might even just be waiting to announce it. Although usually you wait to announce managers, pitching coaches, and such. Like, I've already seen those coming through. That's not a huge deal, right? To do that during the World Series, MLB frowns on like announcing managers usually or whatnot, but pitching coach, I don't think it's a huge deal. But maybe the Padres are just waiting. Okay, as of a few weeks ago, Reuben did not have any offers from the Padres. So that makes me wonder what exactly is happening. Because as soon as the World Series ends, or even now, honestly, other offers can start, coming in, and they probably are coming in now, just not so formally.
It's already coming.
Yeah, exactly. So it is odd that they don't have like a deal set. And honestly, I don't know if the Padres, maybe they had been in like slight talks or something like that, and just nothing formal has come through. And maybe there's a disagreement on the number. I have no idea. I have zero idea. But what is going on with Reuben Niebla? Like, that is someone you definitely want back, and you definitely want them to announce that he is going to be part of the Padres for as long as he will stay. Yes. I don't know if he wants to become a manager. I see a lot of talk about that. I don't know, and I don't know if he wants to become a manager right now. I don't know what openings are available to him right now, even. But going to Terry Francona, that's a reality. That's a possibility for sure.
That's the red flag that went up in my mind, and I use the word red on purpose. The Reds flag that went up in my mind, because, okay, let's play this out a little further. Like you said, we don't know for sure that Reuben Niebla wants to be a manager. It stands to figure he has shown himself to be an ambitious character. And if you are behind Mike Schilt, you don't have a path to this job here in San Diego, not anytime soon. Mike just did a good job. He's a career skipper. He'd like to be here for 15 years. No question about it. Terry Francona is in Cincinnati for a good time, but not a long time. He's at the end of his career. He already retired. He's back now, just like Bochy came back, right? But you don't think Bruce Bochy's going to be the Rangers manager for 15 years, right?
Yeah.
4?
Right.
3, 5, right?
Yeah.
So if you're just here, the thing I have no reporting on this, but I am equally confident in saying this happened. Terry Francona has called Reuben Niebla already. These guys are tight. They're thick as thieves. They were interlocked. He was beloved in the Cleveland organization. Terry's health issues probably part of the instability in Cleveland that allowed Reuben to kind of look at the exit sign for San Diego. And it's one thing for the Padres to be negotiating with Reuben in a situation where he feels happy, secure, and doesn't really have a viable alternative that's presented itself.
Yeah.
But Cincinnati can say to him, come on over, be our director of pitching operations, be our pitching coach, but also in charge of our major and minor league development. And by the way, Terry's got a 3-year deal, and, we could see this working out for you down the road in 4 years, maybe to be the skipper, Reuben Niebla.
Yeah, it's what I thought was happening over there with the Rangers with Will Venable, although I've seen Will Venable's name floated out now more for the White Sox than the Marlins, so who knows? But it gives you like that foundation, and sometimes like if there is a health issue or whatever, you end up taking the interim role, you step in, you get some practice, this and that. And I should clarify, when I said offers, they hadn't had a contract close, I guess, as of a week, a little over a week ago. So it does make you wonder. And look, maybe there's leverage happening too, right? Like maybe Reuben Niebla's agent is saying, hey, we talked to Terry Francona and, they want this or that. And so let's try and get that number where we feel comfortable with it. Reuben Niebla has done a lot of good things here in San Diego. And I think you try to keep him. I don't know financially what exactly that means and what the Padres are looking to, what kind of silo they're looking to keep him in, but you want to try to keep this guy if you can, because he has been really, really good for this pitching staff.
Yeah, and there's no competitive pitching coach balance tax,
No, it doesn't count against you. It doesn't
count against anything.
Right,
it's just a matter of take care of the guys who have done great work for you. Reuben Niebla has done great work for the San Diego Padres over the last 3 years.
But the reality is what you just mentioned is the deadline is coming, and it's going to probably be newsworthy if he doesn't have something announced by, because now he's a free agent essentially. Like
Correct.
you're competing with other teams as well.
That's why I went to the whole clapping and the whole thing. Chop, 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 chop. Get to it. This is the time.
Hopefully they're in talks, or they already have something figured out, or, they're just kind of sitting there waiting for their time that they want to announce it.
And you know what? If that's the case and it's announced Thursday,
right,
We're going to
Monday
celebrate
of next week
Yeah.
or whatever.
We'll-
Yeah.
We'll do handsprings. We'll celebrate. Like, I mean, I'm not going to do a handspring. I don't want to break my tibia and fibula.
You don't. No,
Yeah.
you don't want to do that. It's a painful injury.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
but
I can speak from experience.
But like rhetorical handsprings, we will do rhetorical handsprings. We will do the verbal
I
equivalent.
don't do those anymore because I broke my tibia and fibula.
Yes.
But yes.
Yes, one of us could do it. Neither of us should, and neither of us will. But rhetorically, we will. Okay, when we come back on Annie and Elsten, Sports Equinox Day was yesterday. All the sports in Major League Baseball, football, basketball, hockey, soccer. We'll kind of take a tour of what happened in our country when we come back. Annie and Elsten, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Baseball coverage on 97.3 The Fan is presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. I have yet to upgrade.
I've yet to upgrade as well. I thought you were going to upgrade, actually.
I thought about it. Yeah. I just haven't. No execution. Only thought.
It's kind of a pain when you think about it. You have to be ready for it.
It's a few out. You know what's the hard part is the transfer.
It is. Yeah.
It's the transfer because we've got all our stuff on our phone.
Yeah. You got to be ready for that process.
Yes.
Mentally.
So you go in, here's the deal. Okay, you want the thing. Well, do you want to get the other thing and the this and the that? Okay, cool. Here's the new deal. Sign the contract. All right. Hey, we'll get the phone. Oh, you want to transfer your data, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, that'll be
like
2 hours.
Yeah.
An hour, 2 hours.
I don't know how quickly it's done these days.
No, it's pretty long.
Yeah.
Been pretty long. Smiley over here. Maybe it takes like 5 seconds on an Android or something.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Probably takes like it only takes me 2.6 seconds because I got the green phone.
Well, Android is built on Google, and so when you get a brand new Android phone, you just sign into your Google account and it transfers everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It does take a little bit of time, but the
you have to
days of going to the
yeah.
store and having them plug in your
Right.
two phones or whatever. That's the thing of the
I remember
past.
when they used to take the BlackBerry into the back room and they would,
Yes.
Yeah, they would keep it there, and you didn't know. That time, I think they had to actually physically connect
They had
them.
a cord and they connected both phones.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they still do.
BlackBerry.
I don't
Then
know.
the data just goes marching
the
across the
BlackBerry.
wire.
Right.
I'll be honest, I loved my BlackBerry.
I did too. I love my BlackBerry too.
Have you seen the movie BlackBerry?
I have
There's a
not.
Is that what it's
movie?
called?
I have not. There is a movie.
About the phone?
It's really good.
Is that
It reminds
Netflix?
me. It reminded me of the movie The Social Network.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
But it's about the rise and how a bunch of guys and in their basically I don't want to say basement, but a bunch of
looking at
dudes
it.
just sitting around and they came up with a gigantic corporation out of it. It's a really good movie.
I will check that out,
That's a
Adam.
good one. Look at
Yeah.
that. Crossing Streams with Adam Cleary.
Yes.
On a Tuesday. Well, I like it. Okay, so yesterday, for only the 31st time in the history of our great nation, all 4 major professional sports were played at the same time. And MLS is holding its hand up in the back going, hey, us too. 5 major professional sports all playing on the same night. So we just talked about the boring, lame World Series baseball game, which, it was 4-2. Yeah, they hit a homer with 2 outs in the
Yeah,
ninth. 2 outs in the ninth. Give me a break.
they didn't score a run until 2 outs in the ninth.
Yeah, just
Now, if they had gotten someone on base and tied the game, then I'd be like, okay,
that'd
fine.
be exciting.
But that didn't happen.
No.
So.
No, it was a cakewalk for LA Dodgers. Music stopped and they got their prize. Here's a little quick tour of the rest of the sports of the day. The Steelers beat the Giants in a game that New York tried to come from behind and didn't get the job done. Steelers won, Steelers covered, and Russell Wilson, the much maligned, memed, demeaned, everything else, Russell Wilson was actually quite good for Pittsburgh.
I think he is settling in. Justin Fields had those first games because Russell Wilson was injured, but Russell Wilson shook some rust off, I think, in the last game, and then is settling in. I think he's a good fit so far for the Steelers and for Mike Tomlin. I think Russell Wilson can be a good quarterback, and I think that we're seeing maybe the start of that again for him.
20 of 28, 278 yards.
It's good.
Efficient. You don't have to be lights out in Pittsburgh, right?
You have to be solid, right? You have to not lose the game.
That's it. You have to be a good veteran game manager, and I think he's done enough. Now he's your starter. That whole controversy that lasted for a couple 3 weeks and was part of the overreaction segment and whatnot. Hey, give the guy his due. He's come in. He's played well enough.
Yeah.
He's got the job done. So
yeah,
good
and
for
after
him.
everything that happened with the Broncos, I mean, we'll see, right? How we'll see what the rest of the season holds, but could just be a good fit for him there with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers.
There was kind of a fun moment in that game when George Pickens of Pittsburgh caught the ball in the end zone, right foot down, gets pushed by the DB toward the end line, right foot down again.
Yeah, George Pickens didn't put his other foot down.
No,
Nope.
didn't have 10 toes
Ah.
down when he stands on business. He only had 5 toes down
Just gotta
twice.
tap it, George. You just gotta tap it.
5 toes down twice.
I make it sound like it's so easy.
Boop.
He's like literally being pushed back.
Boop.
and-
Yeah. That man had a lot to do with it.
he had a lot to do. He had to make sure he secured the football. Look, the rule is you have to get both feet down. So
Yes.
the letter of the law is he didn't do it.
He didn't do it.
He did, to me, controlled the catch, but you can't, it doesn't matter. Like if you don't get both feet down, it's not a catch.
It's that's a different rule.
There's a distinction between 2 feet down and both feet down.
Correct.
That's right. You have
Correct.
to get
Both feet down. Left foot, right foot.
And I mean, like, there's 2 defenders on him. He's getting pushed back. I want him so badly to just put that other foot down. But like you said, there's a lot happening.
Or
right
if he
there.
could have sat down, because one cheek equals 2 feet.
Yes.
One elbow equals 2
You
feet.
get to have the other body part down,
Yeah,
right?
but
he's already out of bounds.
Nope, he's out.
Yeah.
He's out. So that was kind of fun. And I'm completely
It's
fine with
always
that.
what is a catch in the NFL? Like, it always brings up the catch rules and all the controversy around it, which is fun chatter, I think.
I got absolutely no problem with in the pros, you better get both feet down.
It's the rule. I mean, you know, unless they change the rule and they're like, or 1 foot twice, then that's what it is.
Well, speaking of changing rules, they're going to change the 12 men on the field rule because the Giants coach did this last night, just like Dan Lanning did in Oregon, throwing a 12th man out there on purpose in order to get the penalty to force the other team to stunt their progress.
They got to change this, right? This is just something that you're able to take advantage of now, but like you said, it's a loophole.
It is, and the NCAA closed it the week after it happened with Oregon. So I wonder if this is going to be changed. Not that I care particularly, but it'd be interesting if they change that in the NFL and just went like, oopsie, because look at this copycat league.
Well,
Dan Lanning does it. Dable's like,
that's what I wonder who's going to do it this week.
Yeah.
And then the next week. And then, it becomes part of the game plan.
hey, hang on. Let me check with my assistant. We can do this, right?
And why wouldn't you, right? If you're the NFL and you're a team trying to get any advantage you can, why wouldn't you utilize it while it's not law?
Yeah.
And you can, right?
So that was the NFL last night. Steelers win, Giants lose. If you're a Giants fan, well, I guess if you're a New York sports
if you're a New York fan.
tough night, New York, Mike. Not sure if the Rangers won or lost.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
how their
not sure.
hockey do.
Well, just briefly in hockey, the one I had highlighted, we talked about Winnipeg. Toronto beat Winnipeg last night. So first loss for Winnipeg.
Oh, well,
they
they're
had
both
started
8.
off with 8 wins.
Okay.
But Jets trying to keep their status as a team in Winnipeg as opposed to a team that's moved out of Winnipeg. So good on them. NBA, great night in the NBA last night. 11 games in the association. A lot of good games, a lot of close games, a lot of exciting games. Celtics beat the Bucks. Milwaukee is not looking again like the team that they're supposed to be, which is the team that's supposed to be able to go head-to-head with Boston. Boston just drained them under a rain of three-pointers once again. Lakers, first loss for J.J. Redick.
Yep.
He was kicking himself. I do.
That was a winnable one?
Yeah,
I thought so. Yeah.
I watched the fourth quarter of this game. It was very much winnable and went back and forth.
Yeah.
It was not like a bad loss. He was upset at himself because he thought he could have made a strategic change in the second quarter because in the second quarter, the Lakers were really shut down. They were just shut they were ice cold. I think they only got 14 points the whole quarter. And he
just went flat.
Yeah, after the game was like, I could have done this. I could have switched that. I'm really liking him as the head coach.
So far, so good, right?
Yes.
I mean,
like so far, so
we got
really
a long
good.
season though, JJ. We got eyes on you, buddy.
We do.
Season.
We got eyes, but
is he still podcasting?
I don't think so.
Okay. What if he did a podcast like every week with someone from the team or something?
That'd be pretty funny.
Actually, I mean, a lot of people would probably tune in, but
I mean, Mookie Betts is still doing his podcast, I'm sure, right? Maybe the two of them could get together.
I think Mookie might have stopped after for once they got in the playoffs, but I'm not sure.
Shut it down with Fernando.
I think that he might have. I don't know that for sure. Let me see if I can.
That's funny.
On base with Mookie Betts.
No,
Fernando was the last one.
There you go.
A month ago.
There you go. He said shut it down for the playoffs.
He's like, gotta shut it down for the playoffs, right?
That makes sense. That does make sense. Tyler says no, he just did one with Judge. That'd be really funny if he did one. Like, hey, Aaron.
Did he? No, I think that was an old one. That was circulating on
Good.
I want to
hey,
say
Aaron,
that was old.
Tough game. Want to come on my podcast tomorrow? This might be the thing that you need to shake you up, is staring right directly at the guy who's about to win the World Series against you. What do you think, pal?
Yeah, I don't know.
Come sit down.
They're sitting down. I see people saying this is from a year ago. Maybe it's recent, and I just don't know.
I think it's probably recycled.
Yeah, I see one that they did in 2023. So I'm not sure.
Hey, come here. Have a seat, Aaron. Rough week, huh, pal? Jeez, that's a tough one. Hey, I've been there. Not really, because I won the World Series twice. But let me tell you, if you ever do come back and you're not facing me, it'll be a great experience. Hey, what do you think? Why don't we do the show now? No, that didn't happen.
Yeah, Mookie Betts has already won the World Series twice.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah. Yeah. Also last night in the NBA. So, yeah, I'm really actually liking J.J. Redick. I think J.J. Redick might have been a really, really sharp hire. Like, he's got the team playing a much better offense.
There's a long season ago, though.
There's
a long season.
I know. But he's got things clicking the right way. He's like, this is a delicate flower, the Lakers ecosystem.
I just never believe that the Lakers are just going to skate like a normal team. You know what I mean? There's always like some drama and controversy.
No, for sure.
But maybe J.J. Redick is the calming force they needed. I don't know. I didn't think Darvin Ham was a problem for them.
No, but just JJ's just a sharp tack.
All right.
You know, he's sharp.
Yeah.
He's got the whole team balanced on Anthony Davis now. That's the way it's supposed to be. Before it was unbalanced because LeBron would have an outsized influence. Now LeBron is accepting it. He's like, I'm kind of second banana on the team now, and it's a good thing because he's almost 40. So it's a good idea to have him attack in bursts, not every single day for 40 minutes. Also last night in the NBA, my beloved Magic. I told you this is a league pass team. Boy, were they ever last night as they played a barn burner against Indiana where Paolo Banchero, the star of the Magic, scored 37 points in the first half.
In the first half.
In the first half. He was on fire. Like every time down, they'd give him the ball. He'd curl around the screen. He'd nail a three. He was driving to the hoop. They couldn't stop him. He was just a completely unstoppable force. But then, you know, the NBA, it gives you its twists and turns. And Paolo came out a little flat in the third. Classic thing. Oh, you scored 37. Let's get my teammates involved. You know, didn't work. Indiana started attacking him, got him in foul trouble. All of a sudden, the Magic were down by 10.
Yeah.
And then they started feeding Paolo again in the fourth quarter, and like they fought back, and it was a nip and tuck game right to the end of the game. NBA gives you one of these, usually like 2 or 3 of these every night. There's a really good
that
game.
Are entertaining.
Yeah, entertaining, big scoring performance, back and forth. You know, the either the lead is changing hands or one team is making a big run to get back into it. That's why I actually support the NBA regular season a lot more than your average bear.
Adam, how's your Hawks doing?
Hawks started out 2-0, and then they've dropped 2 games.
They lost yesterday.
But I'll tell you this, like, because Craig, you guys were mentioning the drama with the Lakers, the Hawks, not that anybody cares, but you asked me, the Hawks own the Lakers' unprotected first-round pick this year, so kind of rooting for disaster there.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, they
See,
do.
there's a motive there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who did we trade to give you that?
It was from the Anthony Davis trade with the Pelicans, and then the Hawks traded DeJounte Murray to the Pelicans.
Got it.
So it's a third hand or second hand.
Yeah, you
pick.
weren't supposed to have that pick, but you got it from the Pelicans. Got it. Okay, that's
So
fair.
I'm not loving the Lakers' hot start.
Let's go
It's
Lakers.
a long season, as I just said.
Well, Atlanta's a good team too. You didn't have DeAndre Hunter the last couple of games, so
Where
that's
is
important.
Bronny? Is Bronny just on the bench? Like,
Just on the bench.
Okay, 'cause he's not in the G League yet.
He's
They
not
haven't.
there yet.
Okay.
But the G League hasn't really started yet.
Oh, okay.
I know that the Clippers G League opener is next
At Front
Friday.
Wave.
Yeah.
Is it right? Like,
yeah, next Friday. So, or next Saturday? Next Friday or Saturday?
So next week.
yeah,
That'll be big.
You could hear an option next week.
So, but he hasn't played since the
No.
first game. Or
No,
correct.
just
okay.
those.
Yeah.
Just those beautiful 2 choreographed minutes.
Well, you're getting to sit and watch and be part of the action from the sideline a little bit, but still.
I just imagine that
it's nothing
every
different than
night,
he's done his whole life. But yeah.
every night, Bronny is waking up, tossing and turning, fixing the pillow, and in his head, all he hears is his dad's voice going, knockdown, as he passed him that shot. Remember that?
Yes.
He threw him the pass,
Yes.
and he goes, knockdown.
I bet you. I think they
Did
get
knock
him
it
in
down.
if they're like leading by a lot in the
Yes.
fourth quarter. I think they get him in one more time before they send him down.
Yeah, he's the team mascot. essentially, right now. Not going to forget MLS. Cincinnati beat New York City FC 1-0. Seattle beat Houston last night, 2 playoff games, and there it is. All the sports Equinox in the course of 1 hour.
And a full moon. Not really.
Is it?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Padres first base
The
in
moon
review
is in the-
next. Welcome back, everybody. Hour number 2 of the program. It is Annie and Elsten, your midday hang on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie Heilbrunn, Craig Elsten, Adam Klug sitting in for Braden Soprenik. Get well soon, Braden.
Yes.
Hope to see you back sooner than later. But, of course, that young man who's also working as a high school football coach, hosting the Sunday show, doing the America's Finest Football Show. Yeah. You know, sometimes you get a little overtaxed. Body tells you it's time to shut her down.
His voice probably needs to be good to yell at the kids.
Right.
Yeah. So like,
give
get arrested
them-
for that.
Yeah,
They're not going to listen if he's not giving them the aura.
That's what I'm
and he's like,
saying. Right.
200 points aura.
Yeah, he's got to be able to give out the positive and negative aura points to his secondary there. So
hopefully he feels better soon. That's the worst, sore throats, like start to feel body aches, all that good stuff.
yeah, for us,
Bad stuff.
For us in radio, sore throat is basically a done deal. Like, even if you felt okay, you should not be talking on the radio when you sound like garbage. Okay, so anyways, Adam's here, and we're happy to have Adam here. And we're going till 2 o'clock, 12 o'clock Sports Fix coming up at the midpoint of the show. This has been, during the summer, our Padres Deep Dive Hour, 11 a.m. So this winds up being the place where some of our postseason, end of season, look ahead to next season exercises will take place. It's just the spot for it. We've already done front office in review, manager in review, catcher in review. Let's slide on up the first baseline and get to the first sack. Let's talk about first base in review 2024 for the San Diego Padres. This is going to lead us to talk about basically 3 people over the course of maybe the hour, and then look ahead to what the position might hold in 2025, which is an extremely open question right now.
I'll have a wrinkle to throw in that as well.
Ooh, I look forward to the wrinkle. So let's start with the guy who was the opening day first baseman for the San Diego Padres, and that was Jake Cronenworth. Jake Cronenworth, who is in his 7-year contract extension now for the Padres, who is contracted to be here a long time, all the way through 2030. And he has been a very good, twice All-Star second baseman for the San Diego Padres. They tried to convert him to first base in 2023. It didn't really take. He had his worst year across the board that finished with injury right when he was starting to get hot. That was the backdrop for what we said was the most important year of his career, Annie, coming into 2024. And on just the top line baseline level, I'd say Jake rewarded his team with a 2-WAR season.
Yes.
That put him back in the core for the San Diego Padres.
He had a better season than I think most people realize. I think there's sometimes and he also had to move positions. Like we tend to, rightfully so, talk about Xander or talk about guys that have to move. And Jake's so good at it. He moves. He's a utility guy. Never seems to bother him, but still, you still had to move positions. And after you worked really hard in the offseason to get good at first and kind of set where you're standing, and he was gobbling up all kinds of baseballs over there at first base to start the season. And it was, a really good look for him in terms of like what he had worked on over the offseason. But offensively, yeah, I thought that, it was one of his better years.
Well, it was certainly a step back in the right direction.
Right.
He had been trending the wrong direction, which meant that his numbers in 2021 were a little worse than 2020. 2022 was a little worse than 21. 23 was worse than 22. So it was a 4-year downward trend for Jake Cronenworth that needed to reverse, and it did reverse. His OPS, which had fallen to 689 in 2023, took a step back in the right direction to 714. Now, that still wasn't as high as he was in 2022.
Yeah.
Or never mind 21 or 20, but it was a step back in the right direction. And every one of his numbers improved by about almost exactly 12 points across the board. He hit 241 instead of 229. He on-based 324 instead of 312. He slugged 390 instead of 378. So he incrementally improved his standing last year.
I mean, it was good to see after all the talk that had happened in 2023, and you don't know if that contract had any kind of weighed on him mentally at all, or maybe the fact that he even signed it, that, now you had to perform to those expectations. I think it surprised him almost as much as it did some of the Padres community in terms of when he ended up signing that contract and for the years and the money. And look, it's something that for Jake Cronenworth, you absolutely do that. You take it and you go ahead and you got to kind of drown out the noise sometimes around it, So I don't know exactly. I know he worked on his swing. He worked on certain things quite a bit. And I think this year it was more of like he wanted to stick with his approach, not tinker too much, make sure that he was coming in with a good swing that he felt comfortable with. And it paid off for him.
It did. I think the most tangible thing, and the stats relay this, that Jake Cronenworth did differently offensively in 2024 is he stopped trying to lift the ball all the time. Jake got into a bad habit of trying to lift, pull, everything. And he wound up with his worst numbers as a result. His fly ball percentage this year dropped by 4 points from 29 down to 25%.
And maybe that was also like the mandate when Victor Rodriguez took them out in spring training, and when Victor Rodriguez called them over the offseason and said, we're going to be a line drive team, we're going to be a gap-to-gap line drive team, because there was a lot of guys in 2023 that were swinging for the fences all the time.
Correct.
And so maybe getting back to just hit the ball, grab a base, grab a double. For Jake, it's always a triple, right? I think him and Jackson Merrill maybe are like neck to neck with that. I haven't looked at those numbers lately. But yeah, just be able to grab some bases and don't necessarily worry about that home run ball.
Now, here's the little wrinkle to this, because Jake did rebound. His exit velocity was up to 88 miles an hour, which is the second best of his career and the best full season of his career. His hard hit percentage moved up to 37%, which was the second best of his career, best full season of his career. However, his line drive percentage actually at 23.8 was below his career average. What went up was the percentage of hard ground balls that Jake hit, because his ground ball percentage was 43%, the most he had had in 3 years. So that's where you see the distinct difference in terms of him trying to lift the ball as opposed to hitting hard ground balls. Now, what was the negative correlative outcome of that? He hit 19 ground ball double plays last year. He had 22 ground ball double plays his entire career. In 4 seasons coming into 2024, he almost matched his career total in 1 year of ground ball double plays. But that was, as we said all year, the hidden killer of the Padres offense.
It's like the trade-off, right? It will haunt you sometimes, but then you're hoping that the benefits of that strategy, of their identity as a team, as an offense, outweighs those double play ground balls.
Yes. One place where you won't see a pretty decent year for Jake being reflected that much is in his WAR totals, and also his OPS plus. Jake's OPS plus for the year was 99, which means basically average, right? Yeah, one tick under average. The reason for that, though, is because first base is weighted heavier as an offensive position. You are expected to contribute more offensively as a first baseman than you do as a second baseman. And Jake's production as a second baseman is basically a 3-WAR player. But when you put him at first base a lot, that makes him a 2-WAR player as a result, just because he, 240, 17 homers. That's not what you traditionally expect from your first baseman.
Yeah, and I mean, this argument, I get it. I understand why we have it. But it's not necessarily traditional for the Padres. Like, the Padres don't necessarily have like your prototypical first baseman, right? Or your
correct. I mean, we haven't in a long time.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, you're right. He's being judged. Obviously, he's being the same way Xander moving to second base put him in a really good position because he's not now against shortstops and whatever, But yeah, like so for Jake, okay. I mean, it's something I think. Yeah, you take a look at that, and I don't remember. I remember the one year that he was going between second and first. His offense was a lot better when he was playing second, but I feel like this year, Looking at it right. I'm trying to find it. I feel like this year wasn't that much of a difference.
I believe you are correct about that. There was a moment where it was mattering.
It was
to him.
mattering, and then I think I feel like that kind of was going away.
Okay, here it is. I've got it for you. He hit better as a first baseman. He hit for a 728 OPS as a first baseman. As a second baseman, 670, which is more in line of what he did in 2023. And those numbers were pretty down across the board for him. I'm looking. There's nothing he did better offensively as a second baseman than he did as a first baseman.
And thanks for noting that, because he still has things to. You still want to see him get up to maybe those numbers that he had early on in his career. I mean, I feel like Jake is still leaving this season and knowing it was a better season than last year, but there's still room to improve here.
Can I ask you a quick question on that? Do you believe that the position that the player plays actually impacts them at the plate? When you say he hit this as a first baseman versus that as a second baseman, do you believe that's coincidence or actual impact based on where they play defensively?
I think that really depends on player circumstance, case by case. Some guys psychologically have an issue when they change positions, and they have a real hard time adapting. I mean, we saw for a month Xander Bogaerts take his play in the field to the plate for him and talk about it. Like, I'm having all these things and now my hip feels funny and all of this because he was adjusting to a new position. Jake is a more seamless move around guy. However, he did really try to entrench himself as the first baseman this year.
Yeah, and he worked on like the positioning and how far he could play off the bag, and I think he felt pretty comfortable. I don't think second base bugs him at all. Like I think he's okay at second base. But he did work hard at first base, and I do agree. It depends on the player, and I think it depends on when they're asked. I always looked at that too, like really, why would it make a difference? But the more I talk to players about it, the more it does or it can make a difference. The more they mentally have to account for things when they're playing defense that then some, kind of they take with them to the plate. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel right. They don't, certain things like that end up affecting them at the plate. And it's also a reason why sometimes a lot of guys don't like to play DH, because they like that. They don't want to think about it too much. Obviously, they don't want to think about their at-bats too much in between them. So they like to be in the field where they can keep busy. But also, like, they like that rhythm. You're feeling good. You're feeling comfortable.
Absolutely. So, for Cronenworth, the move to first base, the beginning and really for the first 4 months of last year, generally bore fruit. Now, here's the other thing. Jake had a significantly stronger first half than second half this year. And that's one of those things that during the Padres' excellent second half play, when they were playing so very well, it was very easily obscured. But as point of fact, after the All-Star break, Jake hit .215. His on-base percentage was fine, .326. He walked just as many times, actually walked one more time in the second half than he did in the first half. But his slugging percentage dropped 106 points from the first to the second half, from .430 all the way down to .324, which is not a power hitter at all.
Yeah, and you got to think that he's looking at that too. Like, especially when you go into the offseason or you go into the playoffs. I know a lot of them didn't have the numbers that they wanted in the playoffs, but you leave the season with that taste in your mouth. You have a better first half than a second half. You're leaving with that taste of the second half.
You really are. And that's where, going back to Adam's question about correlation, causation, right? Jake had a great first half at first base. He gets into the second half. He started off in a little bit of a slump. Now he's changing positions. Now he's back at second base. Now he's worried about the keystone. He's worried about the pivot. He's worried about double plays, so on and so forth. His offense truly never recovered. He hit 198 in July. He hit 184 in September with only one home run.
And he told the UT before the season started in spring training that he was pressing in 2023, that he wanted to go up there and he wanted to drive in and hit that 3-run homer and just be the hero kind of. And a lot of guys did that in 2023. He did say then that he didn't think it was his contract, but whatever it was, he was able to kind of mentally at least work on that in this past offseason and figure out a way to turn it around. And the reason I think that this second part of the season is going to be one where he wants to go into 2025 then and have a more consistent season is because in 2023 he said it was a crappy way to end the year. He had the broken wrist, but he felt like he had started to turn things around at the end of 2023, and then everything kind of ended for him. So you want to go into the offseason feeling, and he has a lot of good things that he can look back on for this year. But I think that for him, that's going to be one that he can work on, consistency.
Yeah, and here's just kind of a last little, as we tour his numbers, funny thing before we even get into the defensive numbers. Something Braden said all year that we all kind of agreed with was, this lineup with Jake batting third, that's not quite the same lineup. But when Jake's batting seventh, like, dang, this lineup's deep, right?
Yeah.
He hit so bad when they put him at the bottom of the order.
Really?
Hitting seventh, he batted 143. He hit 143 as the 7-hitter.
Where was his best?
Third.
He was only third and seventh. That was where.
Well, no,
for the most
realistically,
part,
honestly, he had 20. He had 22 games this year where he batted cleanup. He drove in 20 runs in those 22 games with 5 homers, and he hit 337. So I guess you're supposed to bat him cleanup. But that doesn't seem like the ideal place to bat Jake Cronenworth. But as a number 3 hitter, 251, 748 OPS, drove in 52 runs in 90 games. He did pretty good, not incredible, but he did pretty good. Mm-hmm. But, to be honest, as a 7-hitter, he was terrible. As a 5-hitter, he was terrible. Everything short of 4, he hit 157 or below for the year.
That's also where it's going to kind of and this isn't Jake's fault. This is, Jake, like I said, the contract was presented. He had a good few years there, a double all-star, and certainly, should go ahead and sign that contract and take that and run with it. But how much is it per year essentially for him?
12.
So if he's a 7-hitter, you're just going to need him to perform more, right? Like wherever he is in the lineup, you just want that consistency a little bit more.
Just a little bit more.
Yeah.
When we come back, we will take a look at the other players who occupied first base for the San Diego Padres. 2 diminutive fellas who could swing a nice stick. We'll get to that, and we'll continue to potential options for 2025 as the hour continues. It's Annie and Elsten talking Padres with you. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Hey, gang.
Welcome back, everybody. 11:22 is the time. It's Annie and Elsten here with you, and we are going back through the 2024 Padres first base kind of performance review, so to speak. Padres at first base spent a lot of time talking about, of course, the incumbent, Jake Cronenworth.
I went down a little rabbit hole in the break of like WAR per contract, like how much, which I think is kind of a debatable thing, but actually 2 WAR 12 is kind of on par.
Yeah, no, that's
with what.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah, at some point it was $6 million a WAR. Then it's kind of, I feel like it's moved up to closer to $9 million
I think
a WAR.
So. And I see some that are lower, some that are higher, but that's, the debate, right? How much is per WAR? How much is a contract worth?
If Jake Cronenworth's going to be a 2 WAR player throughout the 2020s, he'll pay off his contract and then some.
I agree.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be a 4 WAR player for this team. And he's never going to become a $20 million player for this team, which is good because there's other guys who do get more and more and more expensive. So if you missed it, Jake had a good season, a step in the right direction, a year that really tailed off in the second half, or else it could have been much better than it was in 2023. Now, he was the first baseman, but he ended the year as the second baseman. And there's probably a pretty darn good chance that he starts next year as the second baseman too, right, Annie?
I think so. I think that you're probably looking at he's going to be your second baseman.
Because Xander's going to be your shortstop. Yeah, I mean,
at least that's the thought right now. I mean, we'll see, right? There's time for things to change, and maybe he brings in a new shortstop. I don't think anyone's coming in from the outfield. Maybe Preller's got a trick up his sleeve that he wants to do, but otherwise, I'm looking at it that way right now.
Yeah, me too. And as such, it means first base would be an open position for the San Diego Padres. And right now, that position would be filled by Luis Arraez. Luis still under contract, still on the team for 2025. And Luis Arraez is a player we've talked about at great length over the course even of the last couple of weeks. He's certainly a polarizing player. He certainly is average first. We all know that. I would direct you to the interview we did a couple weeks ago with Ben Clemens from Fangraphs, who reminded the audience and hopefully all the people who were just like, stats hate Luis. No, there's a version of Luis Arraez that's a very productive, recognized, statistically valuable player in Major League Baseball. It wasn't necessarily the Luis that we saw in San Diego playing with a damaged ligament in his thumb, losing his on-base percentage and his power as he did last year.
Still won the batting title. Still had a good year. I mean, not a great year, not the year that he's used to having. That thumb really bothered him. So having that surgery, coming back, fresh slate, now you get to also feel pretty comfortable in San Diego, assuming that he does come back and the Padres don't deal him. He's got to feel pretty good about his comfortability, and being traded is hard. It was his second time after, but when he went from the Twins to the Marlins, it really was difficult for him. And he did love the Marlins, but he really does love San Diego. So I think for him to get that second year and then also have that thumb feeling better, and then also on top of that, know that like, okay, I can be this guy, and I can show them exactly who I am. I think that things are trending up for Luis Arraez.
I agree. I believe that the Padres will keep Luis. I actually think he's number one on the list of most likely to receive an extension.
Yeah, so the question with Luis Arraez, well, there's multiple questions, is do the Padres want to pay the arbitration cost for 2025, which will be, we've seen, 12, 13, 14 million?
Could be, yeah.
Anything up to that. I don't think the Padres are going to want to pay that. So would they want to then say, okay, let's give you a 2, 3, 4 year extension or something with opt-outs or whatever, and that will kind of bring down a little bit of that number that we would just be spending on next year, because now we're locking you up for multiple years. You can kind of justify it a little bit more. The other thing that could happen is, and I think Luis wants to stay. I don't think Luis Arraez likes being traded every other year. The other thing is too, would they deal him? But what we've seen in the reporting, and which I think we also believe, is like, it's not that simple, because how teams value Luis Arraez is what you will get back. So unless you can find someone that truly values him the way that the Padres do, and I'm sure there are teams, but it's got to work in your lineup. It's got to be the right fit. And they will point to, well, he doesn't really play that much defense. He, blah, 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 whatever. He's a one-tool player, whatever they say. He doesn't hit for power. That might affect the way that you're getting, a bounty back. You might not get the bounty back that you want. And in fact, I've seen reporting that says you might have to pay some of his contract next year. So why would you do it? I don't think that it works for the Padres. I think he is part of the Padres. So here's the wrinkle I'm going to throw. When Luis Arraez first came to the Padres, there was talk, and it was sources that were good sources off the field, away from the clubhouse, where AJ Preller thought about, at least considered, putting Luis Arraez in left field. And my guess was this was when they weren't sure what Jurickson Profar was going to be. So it didn't happen. I don't even think he ended up getting reps at left field. And he didn't even work there, But I do wonder, could they look at him? Could they say, hey, let's move him over to left field and we'll put someone else at first base? Right. Does it make sense even?
Right. Or could it be, wow. I mean, the idea of Luis Arraez in left field is a tricky dance.
Now, he played left field with the Twins in 2019 and 2021.
I'm looking at it. Yep.
I think 48 games. I read some articles where he really liked left field. It was actually their left field that they took him in. I also agree. I think it's a tricky one. I don't know, but and again, they didn't go that direction. The Padres never went that direction, right? So I don't know how much of it was really something that they felt would materialize, but would it be easier to find a first baseman or even re-sign, would you have Donovan Solano? Would you, what would you exactly do, I guess, that would maybe invoke a move like that?
Right. Well, what would invoke a move like that, in my opinion, would be Jurickson Profar signing a multi-year contract with another team.
Right. Or them deciding that they can't keep both.
Yeah.
And then I don't know that you would move Arraez from first/designated hitter. I don't know if his speed, I'm not sure, how he plays in left field.
Well, 5 years ago, he barely played in left field, as you mentioned, in 2019 and 2021. He ranked -3 outs above average and -2 outs above average in a pretty low sample. So he didn't grade well. But Luis Arraez, to be fair, hasn't graded well as a defender anywhere in his career. The best he's done is kind of at first base. And even then, last year he played the most first base of his career, and he had his worst number at -6 outs above average. Now, he did okay for the Padres down the stretch at first base. But the one thing that I would say definitively about locking in a Luis Arraez at first base is that you lose something extremely important in the game of baseball, which is height at the position of first base. Luis Arraez is listed at 5'10". Not sure that he actually is 5'10", but it's nothing against him. But when you had he and Solano combining at first base, you had 5'8" and 5'9", pretty much, at first base, and you saw balls that Jake could stretch for that these guys can't while keeping their foot on the bag just because of their size.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something to consider for sure. And I think in terms of the thumb too, I don't know how much the thumb affected him. Well, it wasn't his, was it his glove hand?
It would be his glove hand.
Okay, yeah. Well, maybe it did then. I don't know how much of that. Not to say that the height doesn't matter there, or the athletic ability. I think I would favor Jake in that case, no matter what. But I don't think. I know the numbers aren't great for Luis Arraez. I don't think he's a terrible defender. I think maybe if he had some more work at a position and felt comfortable with it, maybe you're seeing some improvement there. He's definitely not being paid for his defense.
No, he's not. And he wouldn't be expected to be better defensively than any of the free agent first basemen we'll talk about coming up in the next segment.
I also look at that too. I know that the Padres like the fact that they can get guys off their feet at DH, and you had to use Manny at DH for a bulk of the season last year.
Right.
I don't know that Luis Arraez loves playing DH every day, but maybe if that was something that you're told early on in the season, maybe that is another way to utilize him where you don't play him in a defense position.
This is where AJ's going to make his money this offseason, because you've got, as we talked about, one configuration, which is Arraez at first, Cronenworth at second, Bogarts at short, Machado at third. And that is an easy configuration that you can just roll out there for next year. The problem is that's the Padres' worst defensive formation with those players. They're better when Jake is a first baseman than when he's a second baseman. They're better when Xander is a second baseman than when he's a shortstop. And they're better when Ariz is off the field as opposed to when he is on the field. Of course, Kim made that possible. Kim is probably not going to be there next year, and therefore the Padres have that opportunity. But what happens if left field opens up? If you want to push a player like you were talking about,
If
Annie,
you need to maximize your roster.
then you're going to have to go outside the organization if you want to get a first baseman. So when we come back, we'll take a look at some of the options that are out there, both in free agency and elsewhere, and see if maybe that's a route the Padres are going to wind up having to go if the dominoes fall one particular way. It is First Base in Review for your San Diego Padres. Annie and Elsten back after this quick timeout on The Fan. Did you know you can listen to 97.3 The Fan with your smart speaker? Dare it. Ask your device to play 97.3 The Fan. It'll do it. It's compelled to obey you. That's the way it works. Plug it in, and it will obey. Annie and Elsten here with you. Adam's in for Braden today. We're spending this hour looking at the first base position for the San Diego Padres. We went through Jake Cronenworth, talked a little bit about Luis Arraez as well, and noted that for this team, and with the positional flexibility that A.J. Preller's kind of baked into the roster, there's a lot of fluidity here. It's not really a set answer in terms of how they're going to approach this.
Yeah, I don't think that there is. And I look at what they did in 2024. Look, the Padres were the fifth best team in terms of errors. They had 75 errors. They went Diamondbacks, Braves, Twins, Rangers, Padres. So they did a decent job, I think, defensively. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that is something also that Mike Schilt really rides them on, in a good way. So I think for the Padres, honestly, to go into spring training and have a full spring training where you're not going to Korea, you don't have the World Baseball Classic, and you're not having a guy change positions the first day, go in there. And A.J. Preller alluded to this the other day when he talked to the media. He said last year got a little bit away from us in terms of being able to let our players know who was playing shortstop and who wasn't. And so we hope to let them know a lot earlier this year, because there is the question about Ha-Seong Kim and what's going on. So I paraphrased him there. But so I think that the intent this year will be go in, have a full spring training worth of work with your defense and your infield. And I think they're in a decent spot. Like maybe the numbers aren't completely supportive of them being elite in every position, but I think that they're still pretty good.
I think the configuration of Cronenworth at first, Bogarts at second, good shortstop at short, and Manny at third has a chance to be one of the best defensive infields
But
in
even Crow
baseball.
second, Xander short, and Manny third, and then a good first baseman, maybe not elite, but good.
That would be
Still
good, too.
pretty good.
No,
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
pretty good, too. We'll get to shortstop at some point, but Xander, we will probably find some truly bleak numbers for how Xander played shortstop in August and September. He was actually bad. Like, he was actually bad. He had errors. He had misplays.
And he admitted that. In terms of, because he had changed his positioning. He had changed his whatever. So I do think that a full offseason working at a position and then a full spring training working at a position will help some of these guys.
When I look to what are some options so I think the most likely thing is what we're talking about, is that they sign Arraez to some form of contract extension and then say, you've got first for now. Mm-hmm. Jake, second base, stay there. You're good there. We like you there. Xander, this is your year at short. Go for it, man. And then they're kind of in the backfields with Leo DeVries going like, let's get you ready, man. Let's get you revved up.
Yeah, I think this is a bridge, right? Like you're looking at Salas or DeVries or whatever, whoever's coming up the pipeline and going, okay, how are we bridging the gap here?
Yeah, absolutely. So if they want to go another way, if Profar leaves, right? And as Andy was talking about, maybe they need to use one of the existing players and throw them out into the outfield. How could they look at first base if they were not going to go with the configuration that we have right now? Well, our chat has brought up almost kind of like the only player in the system that could even have a ghost of a chance, and that would be Tercer Ornelas. They didn't call him up at any point last year. They've never called him up. But maybe, with a huge winter, a giant spring or such, I personally don't believe that the Padres believe in Terzo enough to give him a job like that.
I wonder if that would be something where it's like they have it in the back of their mind. It's an option, but it's not their first option. Maybe not even their second option, right? And so then it's kind of there in case you need it. I do think the Padres are going to have to find some ways to supplement with some of the guys that are in the minor leagues. And so how many opportunities do they have? Like, where are those opportunities? That might be one where you don't necessarily love it, even if you're the Padres. Maybe they love it. I don't know. Huh. But it's maybe not your first option, but it's the option you have with your budget. Hard to know.
Yeah.
What's Terzo's deal is that he just really hasn't flashed, right?
Yeah, he's hit for some power.
Yeah.
They've never brought him up. He's got
Maybe
strikeout in his
shot.
game.
Yeah.
I don't think they will. I don't think they will. I think
it's 24.
Yeah. I think he's a trade candidate, or
That's another thing. Yeah, maybe so.
Who knows? Maybe he gets a shot this year, and he'll open all of our eyes, and we hope so. When I look at the free agent class for first baseman, it's top heavy. It is pitfall filled, and I see very few usable options for A.J. Preller.
That makes you think then that they're going to go with someone they know, and they're going to go with someone that's already on their roster. They're not going to go out there and look for a first baseman.
Oh, hey. Adam texted me. Hang on. Well, yeah, that's an idea. Luis Camposano trying to play first base.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, if he hit way better and fielded way better and was just better.
This is exactly like what. So without us knowing their payroll, but with going on reporting that we've seen, right, and the mandate of spending responsibly, you're either looking at he's got to make some trades here and get something back, or like what you just said about the minor leagues and Turso or whoever's kind of toiling down there, that they're like, let's give this guy a go and let's hope for something close to it. Well, not really Jackson Merrill-esque comp, but yes, something that trends in that direction. Or you're going with Luis Ariz, right? Or you're trying to get maybe Donovan Solano and you're platooning them.
Yeah. Here are the names, all right? The top first baseman available in the free agent market is Christian Walker from the Diamondbacks. Now, Christian Walker's 34. Mm-hmm. That might be a little bit surprising to you, given that he was a little under the radar earlier in his Arizona career. You feel like he's just kind of establishing himself, but he has. He had almost 7 WAR this year. A lot of that is in his power, but also his glove. He's an outstanding defensive first baseman. And Walker, I think, will be the first or second highest paid free agent first baseman this winter. The other, of course, being Pete Alonso, who brings the most power in the class, did put up a 5 WAR season. You think he might re-sign in New York, but I think he's going to be a very, very expensive player. And just based on his WAR, Walker's going to be an expensive player. I think both these players are way outside the Padres' price range.
Yeah, and that's the tricky part about all this is we don't know who are they bringing back? How have they targeted guys? What price are they bringing them back? And so kind of, but I don't know that they're going to go do anything outrageous. I don't know that I feel that they are.
Yeah,
I think if they did
so.
anything big, it would be in the pitching side, they don't really need that necessarily. Like, I feel like you want it. It's great if you can get another great hitter, right?
Yeah.
But you also have a lineup that's got a lot of contracts already built in that you need to hit.
Correct. Here's a guy that I think you'd be signing him a year too late, but this is a guy that I talked about a lot last winter, was Carlos Santana. He actually wound up with the 3rd most WAR of this free agent class. He had a 4.5 WAR season. Santana was actually terrific. Mm-hmm. And he's 39, which is obviously too old to build around, but in a world where he gets another 1-year contract, he would be a lovely option. He's okay defensively, switch hitter, power, walks. He's a pretty good, solid player who did quite well for the Twins this year.
Yeah, 38 years old. Not the guitar player, the singer, which is when you type it in, brings it up. I think that on a 1-year deal, that could definitely work. He could definitely be an option.
Paul Goldschmidt is on the free agent market. He's 37, coming off the worst year of his career. He's 2 years removed from being the National League MVP with St. Louis, but sometimes when you lose it at the end of your career, it's lost and it doesn't come back. And I'm talking about the bat speed for Paul Goldschmidt.
Just not worked out for him this year. This Cardinals, right? Not good.
Now, a world in which you got him at a crazy bargain, a pillow contract, something like that. Obviously, his leadership, his history, his stats are incredible. But if you're getting the aged, bottom 10% of his career, then he's not worth it either.
That's one where you look at it because exactly like the history's there. Paul Goldschmidt has been an incredible player, a great player, but he looked when we saw the Cardinals. He did not look good, and so you wonder though with those guys, and this is where A.J. Preller sometimes will do this sort of thing, and it will work out sometimes. Maybe a change of scenery. Maybe Paul Goldschmidt has found something that he knows if he just gets some work on, or he does this or that, he believes he can get back to being this guy. Like those are the ones that you kind of take a flyer on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think flyer is where we land. Here's the rest of this list, and I don't see a lot of fits. Ryan O'Hearn had 3 WAR last year. He's got a club option. Probably the Orioles will pick that up. He is a left-handed bat. That'd be nice. Justin Turner's 40. Wilmer Flores has been a giant forever. He's a platoon guy. Joey Gallo, forget about it. Anthony Rizzo,
Bring him home.
probably still a Yankee when all is said and done. Josh Bell, 32 years old, 0.2 WAR this year. Then you get into the guys that you don't even care about, a Rowdy Tellez, a G-Man Choi. So I don't see a ton of options out there on the free agent market. A guy like Santana would be nice, but that's the kind of fit that you have to agree upon because he is your first baseman DH if you get a Carlos Santana, whereas right now you've got Luis Ariz as your first baseman DH. So are you going to commit to a configuration that puts Luis Ariz in the field all the time? If you do that, you can go get yourself a first baseman. Otherwise, you can't, and you're stuck really playing around the margins with this roster. And the last guy I want to bring up is Donovan Solano. He's 37. He's a free agent. He's not going to break the bank. If you bring him back and just give him a major league contract, that's more than what he got last year, right? When he got a minor league invite. So I think Solano is a player that the Padres could inexpensively sign to a 1-year, $1 million deal with incentives. And then you've got him as the bench guy, pinch hitter, step in for a month if you need to, play an infield position, and also just, have that consistent veteran right-handed presence.
What about Tula? What about a guy like, and I think he's a free agent. What about like a Brandon Drury? Like he can play outfield, he can play infield, he's played some first base. He's, what I'm saying? Like just kind of like your tool player that goes everywhere.
I like that call.
I just think if they're looking for like you said, positional flexibility and someone who can hit, and maybe has comfort.
He's always been a decent hitter. I mean, I think he kind of suffered under the weight of that deal in Anaheim a little bit. So that would be, I wouldn't be mad at that.
I don't know how much they would have to pay him.
And he didn't make a WAR last year.
2 years, $17 million, but he's a free agent this year, right? He's a free agent this year. So, but he was. I think you'd pay him less than what the Angels paid him. Right? I mean, that was a high contract.
For sure. Coming off his career year with us at part season in 2022.
But the point is, you got to get creative again. The point is, Preller's probably getting creative with some of this.
Drury's not a bad call.
I would take Drury back.
Yeah.
He was a good fit.
Drury's a pretty decent call. Yeah. So those are the options that are out there. And in the end, it's kind of a weird spot for San Diego. First base isn't a position they've prioritized. So as a result, now you've got this, it could be Jake, it could be Luis.
Yeah, they have guys who can play first base, but
they don't really have a first baseman.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that A.J. Preller did so well and deserves so much credit for is evaluating the market. And I'm talking about like the trade deadline. He recognized that the impact players available were in the bullpen, were relief pitchers, and so he built around that instead of going out for non-impact players. So my point is, if he evaluates that there are not impact first basemen available, but there's an impact hitter elsewhere, maybe he does just say, Jake, you're our second baseman, Luis Ariz, you're our first baseman. We're going to get that impact hitter and put them at DH.
Right.
Best player available mentality.
Exactly. Instead of saying, let's go get Josh Bell or Brandon Drew or whoever and say we need a first baseman.
It is how he operates most of the time, in terms of wanting to just get a lot of GMs will say that, but he does kind of is known for that. He wants to get you have to sacrifice somewhere, so he wants to get the best player.
He's not going to just go get a first baseman just to say, I got a first baseman is my point.
Yes. No, I agree. Yeah. He doesn't handle it that way. And I don't think the Padres want to lock their DH. To be honest,
I agree with that.
I'm not saying it's ideal to do that.
Yeah.
Like, as much as you could say to Luis Ariz, you're our DH for that, you probably don't want to do that. They do pretty well with cycling through, and you never know when there's going to be an injury or whatever. They do pretty well with cycling through that DH.
Yeah. Well, and when we had a locked-in DH, it didn't really work out too well in 2023. that wound up being an impediment to the team. And hey, it's not going to cost them. They're going to win the World Series, but LA winds up with a locked-in DH all the time, and it provides them inflexibility when, for example, their first baseman is limping and gimping around. So there's an argument to be made to keep your DH loose. I think the biggest part of it is having superstars that are field players like Tatis, like Merrill, and like Machado. Those guys allow you to be flexible with your DH. If you have a bunch of 1.5 WAR players out there in the field, you better have a big-time hitting DH because otherwise your offense is really lagging.
And it's a way to maybe make your payroll, which is more nimble than the guys up north, right? It is a way to kind of get a little bit more out of your payroll, be able to, you never know when an injury is going to pop up, be able to move guys around. Kind of a la Tyler Wade this year, who was impactful, wasn't the difference maker on the team, but, had a role that was important for the Padres.
Tyler Wade did well this year, and maybe he hooks some.
Where's Tyler Wade going? Right.
He's a free agent again. Yeah, no, he's one of those guys, every year.
Maybe he'll be back. And so maybe there's, someone that slots in more somewhere.
One of those guys that's any port in the storm, Tyler will be at somebody's camp next year. And if he's not here, everyone will say, Tyler, that was a really good guy. He did a good job.
And he'll latch on with some other team, and they'll love what he brings as well.
All right, that's first base in review. San Diego Padres 2024 with a look ahead to options for 2025. When we come back, the 12 o'clock Sports Fix is next on Annie and Elsten. The lunch hour has arrived for Tuesday, October 29th. Welcome back, everybody. It is Annie and Elsten in mid-show form on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. With Annie Halbrin, I'm Craig Elsten. Braden Suprenant is out sick today. Adam Klug has stepped in to handle everything to stem the tide, and we are together in our Odyssey studios. The sun has broken out. It appears to be at least a reasonably nice day in San Diego. Love to see it and love to bring you every day all the sports news of the day in the fix.
Oh, time for lunch, eh?
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! We want it now!
See your mom cut the crusts off your bread?
Mom, the meatloaf!
Well, you probably missed a lot in the sports world. Don't worry, we've got you covered from high school to professional and everything in between on the 12 o'clock Sports Fix on Annie and Elsten. Brought to you by Teen Kia of El Cajon. You should be driving a Kia from Teen Kia of El Cajon.
Here we go. We've each got our reports. They're ready to be delivered. It's your 12 o'clock Sports Fix. Annie leads us off, and she's already ahead in the count.
All right, let's start with the open manager role for the Miami Marlins. It's been reported that the Marlins are seemingly down to 2 finalists for their vacant manager role. Guardians bench coach Craig Albernaz and old friend and Rangers associate manager Will Venable. Both have received interest from the White Sox as well, with Venable having already interviewed for that position and apparently remaining in the mix in Chicago. The Marlins and the White Sox. All right.
Woo,
Carlos
what fun.
Yes, I guess. Hey, the good thing about those kinds of jobs is if you're a first-time manager especially, you have pressure, but not the same kind of pressure. You know, it's like you can mess up, kind of, or you have an excuse. Carlos Carrasco was in attendance yesterday evening as Venezuelan countryman Salvador Perez was honored as MLB's Roberto Clemente Award winner. Carrasco told reporters that he has begun his off-season training regimen and hopes to pitch for 2 more seasons. The veteran right-hander turns 38 in March. And to the Fall Classic, right-hander Walker Buehler delivered 5 scoreless innings for the Dodgers as they took Game 3 of the World Series in the Bronx last night. The Yankees were unable to score until they already had 2 outs in the 9th inning. Come on, Yankees. New York now enters Game 4 in need of the first 0-3 World Series and comeback in history to win their first World Series since 2009. Let's go, Yankees. Today is scheduled to be a bullpen game for Los Angeles, while the Yankees will send righty Luis Heel to the mound. First pitch, 5:08 p.m. What are we going to be talking about tomorrow?
The
A
end of the
Yankees
series.
comeback or a Dodgers championship? We will find out.
Oh, maybe the series will take a heel turn.
Maybe it will.
In favor of New
And the
York.
Yankees will forge the biggest comeback in World Series history.
I'm here for it.
Yes, me too.
I
I don't know about it. But
gosh. I'm not even going to allow the opportunity of the thought to cross my mind. Let's just head on over to Adam, who is standing by with really the biggest news of the day. It's all coming in the National Football League.
Busy day in the NFL. We'll start with a quick recap of last night's game. The Steelers won their 22nd straight home game on Monday Night Football, beating the Giants 26-18. The Giants, as a team, and Daniel Jones individually, added to their abysmal record in primetime games. Gotta get these New York teams out of primetime. Hey, tune in for Thursday Night Football with the New York Jets. Right here on 97.3 The Fan.
Ooh, the Jets.
the Giants and the Jets, Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football this weekend. This week. Wow. All right.
Ugh.
And the Yankees.
Knocked me over with a feather.
Huge news out of Indianapolis as the Colts have decided to bench quarterback Anthony Richardson in favor of Joe Flacco. Richardson was the 4th overall pick 2 years ago, so this is certainly a blow for him, potentially being the team's franchise quarterback.
Wait, was he the one that tapped out?
Correct.
Yes, he tapped out because he was tired.
I did see a report on Twitter from a Colts writer who said that the team source told him that they're not quitting on Anthony Richardson, even though that's what the story
just
will be in the
trying to-
media.
They're not quitting on him.
No.
They're just giving up on him.
No,
Temporarily.
I don't think they're giving up. They're just sending a message.
But
of,
obviously,
yes.
a lot has been written about the Browns not re-signing Joe Flacco after he took them to the playoffs last year because
Sure.
of the shadow he would cast over Deshaun Watson. And now
God
it's happened
forbid.
in Indianapolis with their young
Yes.
quarterback, Anthony
He's
Richardson.
too tall. He gives a big, long shadow.
Yes, he is.
Joe Flacco.
Is Joe Flacco elite?
Oh, God.
Deeply mid.
The Panthers have traded wide receiver Deontay Johnson and the 6th-round pick to the Ravens for a 5th-round pick. So they'll move up a few spots with that pick swap. Ravens get another weapon for Lamar Jackson. Packers fans can breathe a sigh of relief as an MRI did not show any significant damage to Jordan Love's injured groin. He left Sunday's win over the Jaguars early, but the injury is not considered to be long-term, and he could play this weekend in the huge matchup against our Lions. After Cowboys cornerback Trayvon Diggs had a rude interaction with a reporter after Sunday's loss to the Niners that went viral on social media, head coach Mike McCarthy said yesterday that Diggs has to be better in these moments and stay on the high road and represent the organization properly. Kyle Shanahan announced that Christian McCaffrey has not had any setbacks, and the team is hoping he can make his season debut in Week 10 after the team's bye. Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans announced that wide receiver Stephon Diggs suffered a torn ACL on Sunday, ending his first season with the team. They're
rough.
also without star receiver Nico Collins, so a big blow offensively to the Texans. And finally, Chiefs owner Clark Hunt told ESPN's Jeremy Fowler that he has no sense that head coach Andy Reid will retire anytime soon.
Oh, okay. Why would he? He's the best team.
Well, there was a lot of talk about it leading up to the Super Bowl last year.
I bet you he'll be really tired going into the Super Bowl this year.
If I were him,
that
I'd
same
want
story will come out.
I would try and coach for as long as I could while having Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, it seems like a good idea. Go ahead and cement your legacy as one of the greatest coaches of all time, behind one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And then you know what you can do? You can go work on TV.
After being chastised as the coach who couldn't win the Super Bowl, now he's won several. Keep winning them and stacking those rings.
All right, my turn to bring you the rest of the sports Equinox from yesterday with all the major sports leagues playing at once. There were 11 games in the National Basketball Association last night. Just surveying the results, Phoenix handed the Lakers their first loss, 109-105. Houston came back to win the Silver State. Is that what they call it? Anyways, the Battle of Texas. 106-101. Houston over San Antonio. Spurs had beaten them in their first meeting. Denver finally got a win, beating Toronto in overtime, 127-125. Denver is the most disappointing team at the beginning of the year. Expected to be a finalist, potentially, and they just finally got a win.
Isn't it early?
It's early.
Okay.
It's very early. Next week, things will change. Cleveland, third best record in all of the NBA. They went to New York and beat the Knicks 110-104, picked up their fourth win of the year. Boston handled Milwaukee 119-108. No one has shaken the Celtics off their train. They will not be derailed this year. And lastly, the Orlando Magic got 50 points from Paolo Banchero with 15 rebounds and beat Indiana 119-115. Today, just 4 games on the hard courts. Dallas at Minnesota will be the highlight. New Orleans at Golden State, the nightcap. Kings are at the Jazz. Nug Pups will be at the Nets. Meanwhile, in the National Hockey League, 8 games last night. Florida took down Buffalo by a 5-2 score. Winnipeg took their first loss of the year. It was Toronto skating past the Jets 6-4. San Jose in overtime took down the club. Hockey Club.
The Hockey Club. That is, yes.
Hockey Club down. Sharks up 5-4. Adam, Braden hates the name Utah Hockey Club. So
I don't like it.
He celebrates
Utah
every
Yeti.
time, and so I just bring up the Utah Hockey Club score every time.
I mean, I know it's big in soccer and there's a lot of football clubs. I don't like those either.
Yeah, fair.
I think you could do better.
Yeah.
You could name
we're
your team a
creative.
name.
What do you have? What is your mascot? A hockey puck or a football?
Yeah, it's just,
Come on.
Or just the city.
I want to call them the Utah Yeti.
Yeah.
Be
same.
unique.
You cannot. They are the club. Vegas also shut out Calgary 5-0. Our Southern California teams did not play last night.
Hockey
they will
organization.
play tonight. The organization.
Right, like,
just put it all the way
on.
across the front. Organization.
It should be like the Hockey Club Organization of the Associate of America. You know what I'm saying? Like, make it just as long and ridiculous as you possibly can.
I mean, the Washington NFL team took it to an extreme example for a couple years with the Washington football team, and I thought that was kind of a joke, kind of a bit, you know, and like, okay, and they were going to rename anyways, but
Yeah.
you're permanently going with club.
Club. Ducks are at the Islanders tonight. The Kings are at the Sharks. Meanwhile, and wrapping up, the MLS Cup playoffs continue. Yesterday, there were 2 matches on the field. Cincinnati over New York City FC 1-0. Seattle wins their first leg 0-0 on penalty kicks, but these are best of 3 series. So being at home and putting up a 0-0 tie is actually a bad result for Seattle in that against Houston. Today, there will be 2 more matches. There will be Columbus hosting New York Red Bulls, and there will be Real Salt Lake hosting Minnesota. Those are the 2 games in the MLS. And that's it for my panoply of sports. Back to Adam for college and high school news, or mostly college news.
Yeah, I've got a lot of college quarterback news here today. Michigan quarterback Jack Tuttle has announced his retirement from football for health reasons. You don't hear this very often, but Tuttle is a 7th-year senior. Transferred twice.
COVID plus
Injuries.
red shirt plus injury.
He's really milking it.
He played in 2 games this season for the Wolverines, including 1 start. Tuttle underwent UCL surgery on his throwing arm in the offseason, which hasn't fully recovered. And he also recently suffered his 5th concussion, which he says made him realize he needs to prioritize his health. We wish him well.
Yes.
Some good news for the 13th ranked Indiana Hoosiers, as head coach Curt Cignetti said he's optimistic that starting quarterback Curtis Rourke can return to the starting lineup on Saturday against Michigan State. Rourke missed last weekend's win over Washington after having surgery on his injured right thumb. And finally, Penn State head coach James Franklin said his starting quarterback Drew Allar, I think that's how it's pronounced, Allar, will be a game-time decision on Saturday, leading into the massive matchup between the 3rd-ranked Nittany Lions and the 4th-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. Allar suffered a left knee injury late in Saturday's win over Wisconsin. Penn State will aim to not only remain undefeated this year, but to snap a 7-game losing streak against the Buckeyes.
It's a good question from Shota in the chat. Our 7th-year senior, has he managed to collect enough credits for an undergraduate degree at this point?
You would hope so.
Hopefully he did double major. Or honestly, there could be worse things than just spending more time in college, right? He's probably just will get out and people are jealous, right? I mean, you just
What was his name again?
take off the real world for a few more years.
His name is Jack Tuttle.
Jack Tuttle's just living the life, man.
Mr. Tuttle, you have
He's
been
living
PMOC.
the dream.
Just-
Yeah.
right. You see him across from the academic environment. Mr. Tuttle, you have been here for 7 years and you have only accrued the equivalent of a college sophomore. What are you doing when you're not at practice, Mr. Tuttle? And he's like, I'm transferring.
He could get 2 degrees in that time.
Yeah.
Serious? That's
The
what I'm
parties.
saying. I would
hanging
love to hear
out.
that, like,
Yeah.
he's most of the way to his doctorate now, as a result of being in college for 7 years. I hope you picked up something along the way, Mr. Tuttle. Something, at least. There's your 12 o'clock sports fix for Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. When we come back on the program, keeping things on the college tip, because...
I'm sorry. Now, I'm
What?
sorry.
What do you
Jack
got?
Tuttle, right?
Jack Tuttle.
Michigan, right? I'm looking at the right guy. Okay. He's a graduate student at Michigan University, where he is a quarterback for the Wolverine. This might be a little old football team. And in UM's School of Social Work, he has completed his supply chain management degree with background in business analytics, currently completing his MBA, a finance emphasis, and now working in social work.
Yes.
Jack Tuttle's living the dream, man. All
Yeah.
right, Jack Tuttle is doing his thing. I don't hate it at all.
He's really just there for the degree, and while he's there, play some football.
Play some football, go to some parties.
Yes.
Put off the real world a little longer.
And
Do it.
Jack Tuttle, I just got a text, and it's in the chat as well, went to Mission Hills. I didn't know that. Went to Mission Hills.
Jack Tuttle.
7th year Jack Tuttle. Hey,
Yeah.
listen, we were just
Gotta get him on the
saying...
show.
Yeah, I was
All
gonna
we
say,
were saying,
it's
Chris
pretty
W.
good.
Yeah, all we were saying is that we hoped he had in 7 years gotten a degree. Not only does he have a degree, he's already
essentially running the world.
Yeah,
and he's an all-American looking quarterback, a good-looking quarterback. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
or whatever he is now.
he's
Yeah.
almost done with his MBA now. Like, come on, this guy's he's doing it.
It's just having a time.
7th
So,
year senior. Yeah, that used to be just a joke that was left exclusively for like summer coming of age movies, right? Where the freshmen showed up on campus. Hey, I'm the 7th-year senior. Let me show you the ropes, kid. Let's take a time out. We're back to talk some college when we come back. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Don't let AI dictate your fantasy lineup. Instead, get bite-sized fantasy football analysis in your ears. You can, right there. Oof. Oh, fantasy analysis. What is that in there? Get the Q-tip out of there. Third string tight end comes shaking out of your eardrum. Yeah, that's the Sleeper King podcast. It'll be putting it in there quite deviously, giving you all the fantasy insight you need in just 20 minutes every day. Every league has a Sleeper King. It should be you. Follow the Sleeper King on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Okay. Andy and Elsten back with you. Off the fix. A couple of stories that got tossed in, and I thank you for tossing them in, Adam, into the log today that when I got into, I really wanted to chew on. And in this segment, I want to talk about the one that you put right here in the 1220, which is the National State of Play Report for 2024. There's a place called the Aspen Institute. Never been. Sounds nice.
Is it in Aspen?
I hope so.
I was wondering that when I read the story. I'm like, is this just kids in Aspen? I don't think there's a lot of kids there. But
well, that's where the Institute is.
Okay.
The Institute's in Aspen. And then they have the Sports and Society program.
Okay.
And what they do every year is they track boys and girls' participation in sports, in various sports,
Yep.
And compare it to the past. So, here's some very interesting results from the 2024 State of Play report. Top line stories. Girls' sports participation, up, up, up.
Love it.
Boys' sports participation, down, down, down.
Don't love it.
African American children playing far fewer sports
Don't love it.
than the past. And children specializing in only one sport, even more than they ever have before.
I don't know how many times I speak with, I'm sure you do too, athletes who are professional athletes who say the biggest thing, in fact, Jackson Merrill's dad was talking about this just recently this year. The biggest thing is having your kid play multiple sports. Like, have your kid play multiple sports, cross athletically, you'll work on different things. You'll get to get some speed here, some footwork there. You learn different ways of being on the field or being inside of a clubhouse or on a team. It's very it's kind of sad to see that it's so specialized now.
Now, how about just a baseline that we can all relate to and agree upon? How about everybody? Amongst all kids in 2023, because this report is reviewing the data from the year prior, 39.8% of children aged 6 to 17 regularly played a team sport. So 4 out of 10 kids are in team sports in current American society. And that's actually the highest rate since 2015.
That seems good.
Right. So that's on the just everybody, put everyone in the same bathtub, and the rate has gone up overall. However, within that, 9 of the 16 sports that they pay attention to saw lower participation rates. So there was more collecting, right? More of a coalescing of people in specific sports. But now you get into the specifics, and things get pretty interesting. Half of boys, back in 2013, 10 years prior in the data, 50% of boys participated regularly in sports. That number went down to 41% in 2023, a pretty significant drop. However, girls aged 6 to 12 and 13 to 17 played at higher levels in 2023 than any recent year dating to at least 2012. The total gap, meaning more boys than girls participating, what's that gap between them? That gap has shrunk from 15% difference to 5% difference now. That's pretty significant that you're seeing a large influx of girls committing to play more soccer, more, anything. And at the same time, you're seeing on the boys' side, it's actually coming down pretty significantly.
I thought I saw something in that article that said something about how girls, you're less likely to get cut because maybe the participation isn't as high as in boys sports where you get cut and there just aren't always another alternative and another place to go. I
That's
think,
true.
and there is also like, from what I've seen, and I'm no expert on this, but just talking to parents, or my friends who are parents and whatnot, and who have kids in club sports, like the club sports are so expensive now, and the competition level is like where everything is now year round. So instead of your kid going and playing a few sports, maybe in high school or whatever, like you're kind of supposed to become a little bit more obsessed at an early age with your sport and become the very best at it. But a lot of times I think for these kids, that they miss out on something that they might really like because there's such we got to do this and we got to do it year round and we got to pay all this money for it. And that's hard for a lot of kids or families.
Yeah. One aspect, definitely, and it's being mentioned in the chat as well, is cost. According to the Women's Sports Foundation and their research, women surveyed in their 20s reported the highest barrier to play sports as a child was due to cost.
Yeah,
so,
I believe it.
And that's going to materially impact boys at a higher level than girls because there's more high equipment, high cost sports for boys, such as hockey, such as football, etc. So that's one way to explain why boys aren't participating as much. As mentioned,
is video gaming the other reason? Although
that's
females video game too, girls video game
do,
too, but probably not the same rate. Yeah.
Here's someone I would almost like. I read these quotes and I'm like, I kind of want to talk to her. Linda Flanagan is the author of "Take Back the Game: How Money and Mania Are Ruining Kids' Sports and Why It Matters." She wrote, quote, "The decline in male sports participation could be one more reflection of this widespread decline in boys' and men's achievement. We also shouldn't discount the impact of phones, which became widely available in 2012, coinciding with the start of the teenage mental health crisis." So that really resonated for me as the parent of a 13-year-old boy. And of course, everyone has their own anecdotes, right? Everyone has their own personal experiences. What have I experienced in James' peer group and with my own son as well is when you're 7, 8, 9, a lot of willingness to go try soccer, go try. Now, listen, this is what you were talking about is really, really true where the rubber hits the road. For girls' sports, it's more likely that you can go try and play a sport at 9, 10, 11, and then still go make a club team or a school team, right, when you get to that age. Whereas for boys, once you get to like 10 or 11, usually in a sport, you've either been identified as like, yeah, this is a good one. Get him in club, get him in year round, get him going, right?
Travel ball.
Or maybe you didn't make that cut. And now those kids are getting better at such a higher rate that it almost becomes like a waste of your time. Why would I keep trying to play? All these kids are playing club. They can kick my butt out there on the field. Why would I run out there and try and embarrass myself?
Yeah, and I think COVID hurt them a lot too, right? Like that year of just not really being around other kids, being more sheltered in place. That was a slogan or a term that we heard a lot of back then. But being more sheltered and kind of just not, not having those opportunities. And then you kind of learned a different way to live then. And I feel like it did hurt, at least from what I can tell from my nephews and their friend group. It definitely hurt their self-esteem. Like it definitely hurt their ability to kind of go out there and, attack the world. It had some effect that I think is still being figured out. COVID did on some of these teens and preteens and people who were excelling in high school and playing multiple sports after COVID came back and didn't start them back up. Like they didn't just, you would think, okay, well, COVID's over. Let's get back into this or this. Some of them did, but a lot of them didn't, right? So it just kind of brought on, I think, a different way of life. But even I look at one of my nephews who played youth football. And at that time, just general youth football, and it was pretty expensive back then. I can't even imagine what it is now for just like your typical, youth football team.
Yeah. But I will not personally discount the idea that it's not just games, because I grew up with video games. You could go to the arcade and play. You had a home system and play, but you couldn't link
Atari
to all of your literally Odyssey, Atari, yes, ColecoVision. Sad but true. I'm old, 52, but you couldn't link with your friends, and I couldn't play with Adam with a headset and we're both playing the same football game together,
Right.
or both playing the same
It wasn't
Fortnite game
social, yeah,
together,
or chatting,
right?
Yeah.
Yes. Now that is widespread,
and that's kind of considered an activity, right? It's a hobby. It's a. I mean, it's not a sport.
Yeah, no, but
maybe they do. I don't know.
But it is something that's social. It's something that
Yes.
kids are doing together. And
For
whereas
hours and hours.
when I was growing up, again, I always understand how old I feel and sound when I'm talking about this stuff. But when I was growing up, you got together with your friends. You got together, whether it was going down to the playground. Different day part, buddy. That's the afternoon show.
I appreciated it.
No, but true. Or like, you got together for a game night. You got together because
definitely.
Ben had ColecoVision at his house. So now we're going to all go over to his house because he just got the new video game and we're going to play the game together. But we're together, human
Or you
beings.
met up at the mall, or you met up at the park, or you went to people's houses, and now so much of it is people in rooms with their headset on.
That's it.
I mean, even look at baseball players. I don't blame them one bit. Everybody has their release, but you even have a lot of athletes now that's a huge part of their routine.
Yeah. And so if you've got the combination of the sports are becoming stratified, the sports are more expensive, the sports are more competitive, you have to be in a club by the time you're 12 or else you're basically out of the loop. You combine that with, or I could be at home and all of this stuff just gets inputted directly into my brain. I'm here, I'm playing input. To me, a young mind will grow. It'll also just stop when it's just being fed nonstop, just nonstop stimulation. Then there's no reason to grow because it's already being filled up as it is. And
they have their phones, and they have TikTok, and they have Instagram, and
I'm telling you.
everything else that we don't even know about. And I mean, there's a lot there too, and in terms of just playing games on their phone, or watching movies, or just having so much entertainment at your fingertips.
It's a completely different universe, and I think it's taking away a lot of boys playing sports. I mean, I do, but it's not just that one thing. It's never just one thing.
Yeah, and it's always different. I mean, it's different from person to person and community to community.
Really interesting stuff, though, just to see how everything's been changing.
You wonder what it's going to be like in 5-10 years, and then in 20 years, right? I mean,
well,
you
that's
wonder,
what I really wonder.
And then if we go into another story where they're cutting, and maybe later they're cutting scholarships, you wonder how many of these kids will even look at, why would I continue a sport necessarily? Like, if I have the opportunity to, if I'm not going to be like a superstar at it, maybe there's less incentive to keep going with a sport, or their parents are like, hey, we could save a little money here, and who knows, go on a vacation or get you this present or whatever, this gaming system, or there's just going to be, I think, other things to consider.
It's interesting you mentioned not going to be a superstar at it, meaning pro sports, meaning athletics. There's also
or even
another
college,
There's also another avenue that exists today that didn't exist then, which is being an influencer and creating content.
Right.
And you can literally stream yourself playing video games, and people will pay to watch it. And again, I'm not saying it's a large percentage of people who can make money that way, but the point is, some can. That avenue exists, and it didn't then.
If you ask a lot of kids now what they want to do when they grow up, they want to be an influencer, and that's and they can just do that. They can start that. There's a lot of kids that do that already in high school.
Well, what we've really got, and this would be like more of a different radio station's discussion, to be honest with you, but all of this technology has rapidly changed, and it has been rapidly introduced into our society. As this story references, it was just 12 years ago that not everyone had a device, a smart device, a device that gave you the internet, that gave you video, that gave you audio, video, everything, and not just phone calls and maybe a link to the internet or to the web. And we don't know how that is materially impacting children's education, how children's brains are being wired, how they are
their
growing.
brains, our brains,
yes,
especially their brains. But there's a reason that a lot of those developers don't let their kids have phones.
I'm telling you. So I am willing to say that we don't even know what we don't know right now.
And then you look at the mental health part of it too, which is a whole other story. Like, how is it affecting mental health to constantly be on technology, or to not have team sports, or to not have social circles that are maybe a little bit more healthy? Like, I don't know how my parents afforded dance for me for so long. I really don't, because we did not have the money. But I would I mean, it was such a huge part of my life. It was where I went every day after school. It was, you had your dance friends, and, it was, but even that, I mean, is so, now I look back on it, it's so expensive. And you wonder too, maybe it will spawn like some more nonprofits or ways that they can, figure out ways to kind of get kids more involved. But if your friends aren't doing it, a lot of times you're not doing it, right?
That's exactly right. But what your friends are doing is getting together to play Fortnite every night. And so why wouldn't you just do that? Really interesting stuff. Great discussion. The State of Play survey results for 2023. When we come back, it's time for Silly Games. Every day on Annie and Elsten, we play a silly game with a cool prize attached. This week's cool prize is a pair of tickets to San Diego State's men's basketball season opener against my beloved UC San Diego Tritons on November 6th. We've just got one pair for the show for the week. So if you win today's game, Fast Money, you will be qualified, and you would become our first qualifier of the week, because Annie won Anybody Knows yesterday, to get those tickets on Friday. Today's game is Fast Money. It is the bonus round from the very popular Family Feud game show. So we need one contestant on the line. 833-288-0973 is our number. 833-288-0973. Give us a call. Adam will get you screened up during the break. And when we come back, we play Fast Money next on The Fan. All right, it's silly games time. 12:43 on the Fan. Welcome back. Andy and Elsten here with you. Adam Klug stepping in for our resident Ray Combs, Braden Soprenet. So now you're our new resident Ray Combs. And it is time on this particular edition of Silly Games to play Fast Money.
No fielding here. 5 questions, 1 minute, endless possibilities. Good luck, because you'll need it on Fast Money with Annie and Elsten.
Here we go with the very popular bonus round to the Family Feud game show. It is Fast Money. Adam Klug had been hard at work surveying a recent studio audience to Annie and Elsten to come up with the questions for the most popular answers. And today's contestant looking to score qualification for a pair of tickets to see the Aztecs host the Tritons. It's Brandon in El Cajon. Hi, Brandon.
Hey, Craig. Hey, Annie. Hey, Adam. How you guys doing?
Good, Brandon.
We're doing well, man. Before we play the game, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Brandon from El Cajon. One-time contestant on Fast Money here on 97.3. One-time loser.
Nice.
Let's correct that.
Yeah, let's turn things around here, Brandon. All right, you've played, so you know the game. For anyone listening who does not, very straightforward. Brandon's going to begin with a simple choice. He's either going to take on myself or he's going to take on Annie. That host will leave the studio, and then inside these soundproof walls, our resident Richard Dawson, Adam Klug, will be there with the questions. You're going to be looking for the most popular answer. Then the host will return. They cannot repeat your answers. We'll tally up the scores, and if you win, you will be qualified at the end of the week for the Aztecs and the Tritons. Brandon, would you like to take on Craig or Annie today?
I'll play Annie today.
All righty,
All right,
Annie.
Brandon.
Annie is heading out. It's all right. I always assume that you're going to pick Annie because I've got the scoreboard over here. I was already ready to keep score. And now here he is, the man who has kissed as many ladies as Richard Dawson in his lifetime. Allegedly. It's Adam Klug.
I don't know if that's a compliment or a diss.
I would say Richard Dawson kissed quite a lot of ladies. Because remember on Family Feud, he would give every lady a kiss.
There you go. That's correct. All right, Brandon, you ready to play?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. 60 seconds on the clock. I will start it as soon as I finish the first question. Here we go. Name a type of person who often serves as an expert witness.
An expert witness.
In a court case.
Let me pass and come back.
Name a vegetable you cannot eat in one bite.
A carrot.
Name a vehicle that kids pretend to drive.
A fire truck.
Name a way you hate being awakened in the morning.
By my alarm clock.
Yes.
Name a weapon that is thrown.
An axe.
An axe. And lastly, go back to the first one. Name a type of person who often serves as an expert witness.
A doctor.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
You
Good
got
one.
there. You got there, Brandon. Great answers. I think you got a couple number ones in there for sure. I think that one could be a number one. All right. We've got all the potlucks going on the reg. Greg, part of our all-star celebrity panel for Match Game, has been busy bending the ear of Annie Heilbrunn, hopefully filling her with that positive ESP mojo to come up with popular answers.
He's causing trouble, like usual, is what he's
Greg.
doing. Yes.
That Greg. Oh, he's causing trouble. All right. Brandon's
Okay.
answers are locked. Are you ready to go in?
Ready to go.
All right. Here we go. Back to Adam.
60 seconds on the clock as soon as I finish reading the first question. Name a type of person who often serves as an expert witness in a court case.
Annie. Oh.
Yes, I should know this one. An expert witness?
Yeah, just a type of profession that would be an expert witness.
Oh, forensics. Is that right? I don't know.
Sure. That's an
Forensics
answer.
is something. Name a vegetable you can't eat in one bite.
A vegetable you can't eat in one bite. A vegetable, a carrot.
Try
Well,
again.
I guess you could have baby carrots.
Try again.
A squash.
Squash.
Name a vehicle that kids pretend to drive.
A vehicle that kids pretend to drive. A couch?
Sure.
Like they're like pretending to drive on it?
Well, we wrote that down, so we'll see.
I don't
Name
know.
Name a way you hate being awakened in the morning.
Well, the alarm clock.
Try again.
Oh no. People talking.
People talking.
Name a weapon that is thrown.
Go ahead.
A
and answer.
weapon that is thrown. A nunchuck.
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 I love it.
I hope I win. I don't think I'm going
I'm gonna bring
to.
Brandon back up.
All right, Brandon, you got a good shot here.
I think Brandon's liking his chances, but you never know what the studio audience has to say. As Adam, the way this works is you'll say the thing, I'll read the question, or I'll read the answer, and you'll give the score.
Name a type of person who often serves as an expert witness.
Brandon said doctor.
Doctor, that's a good answer.
Doctor, number 2 answer with 23.
I guess like a police
23
officer.
points. That's a good call.
Police officer.
A detective?
Number 1 answer.
But Annie said forensics.
Annie said.
Forensics.
So I've got psychologist, psychiatrist, pathologist, scientist, or any of those.
Scientist would work.
scientist.
Scientist is the number 6 answer. That's a 4-pointer.
All right,
23-4. Okay.
Name a vegetable you can't eat in one bite. Brandon said.
Carrot.
Number 1 answer, 31.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one.
Okay. Annie said squash.
4 points.
4. Solid 4. All right. We are at 54-8. Going to a very entertaining question number 3.
Name a vehicle that kids pretend to drive.
Annie said Brandon said fire truck.
Fire truck would be the number 1 answer.
What?
Fire truck.
Fire
Where
truck.
are they? What fire truck are they in?
They're
Like they get
pretending.
in?
They're pretending.
Oh, they're
to-
pretending. Well,
40
don't they pretend to do that on the couch?
Yeah, but they don't think they're driving a couch. They think they're driving a fire truck.
45 on the fire truck. Annie said
Just the couch. Here we are on the couch.
was not one of the top answers.
Dang it.
My
I
son
don't
is
know
an
why.
outstanding couch driver.
Yeah.
He's driving that couch every afternoon,
Where's
let
the
me tell you.
creativity?
Name a way you hate being awakened in the morning.
Well, Brandon said the alarm clock.
I'm with
Which
you,
would be the
Brandon.
number 1 answer.
Yes.
24 points.
Okay.
Annie said.
Talking. People talking.
People
We'll give
insisting.
her the number 3 answer, which is yelling.
Okay.
Okay.
Yelling. 17.
Thanks.
17 points. That makes sense. All right. So the score is a lot to very little as we go to the final.
Name a weapon that is thrown.
Well, Brandon said an axe.
Oh, that's a good one, Brandon.
What?
Not one of the top 4
What?
answers given.
Okay. Annie said nunchucks.
Probably a grenade. Oh my God, there's
Nunchucks,
no
not thrown.
nunchucks?
Spin nunchucks. Number 1 answer was a knife, followed by spear, hand grenade, and rock.
Well, with a final score of 123-25, Brandon,
job, Brandon.
is the winner. Congratulations, Brandon.
Kids, they have no imagination,
Couch driver.
Drive the couch. Yeah.
Oh, man. I've been a couch driver many a day. Many a day.
Brandon is entered to win our special prize of the week.
Yes, that's exactly right. So, Brandon, you are now our first qualifier this week for a pair of tickets to San Diego State against UCSD on November 6th. I know at least one more person will be in the hopper because we'll play match game on Thursday. But right now, you're shooting at no worse than a 1-in-4 shot of winning. But, Brandon, you can now officially call yourself two-time Fast Money player, one-time champion. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
You got it. And with that high energy response, I'm going to go ahead and put you on hold. Stay right there. Adam will get your information during the timeout. Very
Right.
good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's see. What would I have answered?
What would you have answered?
Well, I think for the expert witness, I think doctor was a great call, but I would have said cop.
Yeah, police officer, number 1 answer.
Yeah, that would have been my answer.
Makes sense.
Was cop. Just they're always being asked to.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Like at the scene.
I think carrot was carrot, good answer. Squash, good answer. What's another vegetable that's too
Yeah, what
big?
were the other vegetables?
Corn on the cob was the number 2 answer,
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't one bite that.
Yeah.
followed by potato, tomato, and celery.
Isn't tomato a fruit? Whatever.
I believe
Okay.
it is.
What were the other things other than couches that people drove?
Fire truck was number 1.
Cop-
motorcycle number 2.
motorcycle.
Dump truck number 3.
Oh,
Dump
Only get
truck.
3 answers.
okay.
Every-
Now the kids have all these fancy little
these
cars
aspiring
anyways.
dump
They've got
truck
like
riders.
the Hummers that are like
Inspiring dump
tiny and they drive them around.
Son, we're going to get you sorted on the clean and narrow path.
Ways you hate being awakened in the morning: alarm,
Dogs.
phone, yelling, being shaken,
Okay.
car horn, and lights turned on are the
no
6 top
dogs.
answers.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair. And how about for throwing?
Throwing: knife, spear, hand grenade, and rock.
Knife.
I think axe was a nice answer.
I do too.
Yeah. I mean, just
I
maybe
mean, they
people...
literally have axe throwing.
I thought you
Right.
spin the nunchuck and then you throw it, or you just spin it.
No, you're just going to hit people with it.
Oh,
You ever watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
a long
just
time
whack.
ago.
Michelangelo had the
A
nunchucks.
long time ago.
Whack.
Well, I thought those nunchucks weren't they also in that other movie with the nerdy guy, the
Which nerdy guy?
the guy that like there was a T-shirt and come on guys,
The nerdy guy with the
Napoleon
t-shirt?
Dynamite?
Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes, he had nunchucks. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, he did. Nerdy guy with a t-shirt.
Yeah,
Now it makes
yeah,
sense to
remember
me.
the
I
T-shirt,
got you,
like-
Annie.
Vote for Pedro.
Pedro.
Yes.
Uncle Rico.
Yes.
Uncle Rico can throw it over the backside of the mountain, man. Got the strongest arm you'll ever see. All right, great stuff there. Well played, Brandon. Congratulations. Tomorrow we play Mind the Gap, the game of multi-generational trivia. Thursday, we assemble the all-star celebrity panel to play the match game. So that's what's still to come. And a bonus edition of Anybody Knows on Friday. Those are the ways you can play our silly game this week. When we come back, hour number 4 of the program, Sam and Del Mar called in during the break, Annie, a local mental health professional who wanted to respond to what we were just talking about.
Awesome, Sam.
Yeah, with the state of play survey. And
Love it.
How education is changing, technology is changing things for kids. So we're going to hear from Sam when we come back. And we'll hit some resets on the topics of the day as well. Stay right here. Full day of Sports Talk Radio for you. Gwen and Chris from 2 to 6. Scraby from 6 to 7 as well. This is Annie and Elsten. We go till 2 on the Fan.
If you guys
Rolling into hour number 4. Welcome back, everybody. It is Annie and Elsten here with you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. With Annie Heilbrunn, I'm Craig Elsten. Adam Klug is alongside in for Braden Soprennant today in our Odyssey studios. Final hour of our 4-hour program. We're here with you every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. Gwen and Chris standing by, getting the Big Five ready, getting everything lined up. Scraby doing his silly nonsense. They're ready to roll at 2 o'clock. They'll go from 2 to 6. Then everyone leaves, and Scraby sticks around. Mm-hmm. And he's just hoping that somebody at the potluck forgets to pack up their stuff. He's hoping to have some spare food left for him as one man alone with his dark thoughts.
He comes early, so he's hopefully grabbing some stuff and putting it away.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's thinking ahead like that.
Right.
Because it's a long, lonely hour with Matt Scraby from 6 to 7 p.m. And that's coming up. That's coming your way here today on The Fan. All right, we're going to hit reset on some of the topics that we've discussed over the first 3 hours. What's that, Scraby's official theme song?
You said the sad, lonely hour.
Yeah, it's just, this is how I imagine Matt in here, alone with his thoughts.
Well, and daylight
griping.
savings time is going to happen soon, and it's going to get real dark for him.
Darker still. Guy wears almost exclusively black and navy blue every time you see him. That's just Scrabes. It's just him. That's just the guy. That's why we love him. All right. Before we get into World Series, we've got, do you even care? The starting lineups?
I guess they might have moved around some guys. Whatever. Yankees,
Yeah.
you need a win. You need a win or it's literally over. This is it.
They need to move some guys around, and by that I mean around the bases. From home plate to first to second to third and then touching home.
And
that's what they need to do.
If the Dodgers win on a bullpen game, if they seal their World Series championship on a bullpen game, oh, God, it's like a dagger.
It is, but it probably is happening. However, in the segment before we played Silly Game, we talked about the National State of Play report. We talked about declining sports participation for boys age 6 to 17, increased participation for girls age 6 to 17. We talked about some of the reasons behind that. It spurred a call at 833-288-0973 from Sam in Del Mar. Hi, Sam. Thanks for holding on through the game. Welcome to the show.
Hey, y'all. How you guys doing?
Doing great, man.
Good. Yeah, no, I want to just first and foremost thank you guys for even talking about that, because I think it's a missed opportunity that people don't get to listen to or even hear about or even think about. They just kind of focus on what's going on for their own individual life and don't see the state of play of everybody else. The interesting thing that you said, or that was reported, was like women's sports, girls sports being, elevated. I think that's because of Women Pro Soccer League and WNBA and things like that, where there are more professional sports leagues for women to be, achieving and striving for. So you see that level of play being put in so much higher. And, with boys, like, not to I don't like stereotyping, but they're typically the ones playing Fortnite. They're the ones typically playing video games with their friends. They're the ones staying inside. And sports are really expensive. And so when you see that whole aspect of, what can I do, get bang for my buck? Parents are like, oh, you can only play one sport because it's this much and this, that. They put a lot of pressure on kids to pick and choose what sport you want to play. And that can really turn off kids in general. I work with so many young athletes that just tell me constantly, I don't really want to play anymore, but my parents said they put way too much time and money into this and that I can't just quit. And it's really hard to see that, and having those conversations with parents isn't always easy.
I think it's a good point that you bring up too. And Sam, thanks so much for talking with us. Is what I said, that kids should be able to play multiple sports. I didn't mean like their parents should mortgage the house for them to play sports. I meant it in the context of like, they get to high school or they're in middle school, and I'm looking at it in a more inexpensive way, where it used to be you could play, you'd run track in the fall and you'd play basketball here, you'd play football here or whatever, and I just don't see that as much anymore because kids seem to specialize. But it's a good point that Sam makes. It's also really costly. So maybe you aren't able to, let your kids play a number of different sports.
Well, Sam, it goes right back to now we're getting into class issues, right? Because You got two working parents. You may not even have time to get your kid out to multiple different sports practices. Right, exactly.
Traveling for competitions, everything I should think about. Exactly.
Yeah, most sports are now year-round. So
Right.
even if you wanted to play a sport, you're not able to play that sport or multiple sports because there's conflict. It's like, okay, I have basketball Tuesday, Thursday. I have soccer Monday, Wednesday. I want to try this or I want to do that. It's not realistic anymore, and it's really hard because not a lot of people have that opportunity to invest that much time and effort into sports. It's becoming monetized. You look at all these, AAU basketball. You're looking at all this competitive soccer. You look at, travel baseball. It's a business now, and so they really just try to, and it has such direct effect on the mental health of these kids, where they look at it like, oh my gosh, I have to do this because then I can't go to college.
Right.
I have to get a scholarship because my parents are putting this money in now, hoping that they don't have to pay for college on the back end of things. I hear this all the time, and it really puts such a burden on the kids that they also lose the fun of it. They forget why they started playing to begin with. And it's interesting to see that, because I've noticed kids that start playing sports at an earlier age, well, sometimes there's more room for burnout, but there's less likely, if you can hold off electronics and the video games until a little bit later, they're going to be grass-rooted into the sports. They're going to want to play sports over other things. But if you're constantly feeding electronics as the babysitter when these kids are 7, 8, 9 years old, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure, because what's going to give you that instant dopamine?
Right.
The video games.
Right.
You're not going to want to sit out in the outfield waiting for a ball to be hit to you anymore. So it's this trade-off that parents don't always understand or realize the damage that electronics can have. Everything's great in moderation, but don't use it just to pacify a situation.
I know you're walking right down the path that I want to have well lit here, Sam, so I'm going to walk right next to you on it. But I think about this stuff all the time. And let me give you just one specific example of one of the things I think about. I call it reset culture. When you're playing a game with your friends, when I was growing up playing a game with my friends, whether it was on the schoolyard or outside on the street, you win, you lose, there's a consequence. Maybe Johnny kicked my ass in something, or maybe I got the big shot off, on the playground, and I was the one who scored. But you walk away from that understanding, like, Johnny's bigger than me. He handled that. I can do this, right? Just a self-awareness. But Sam, in a video game, you fall behind, something goes wrong, hit reset. Just boom, reset, start over, reset, start over, reset, start over. And it becomes easy to give up on other things when you have been trained and inured in the concept of, if it's hard, hit reset, start over.
Oh, without a doubt. We're living in a culture of such instant gratification and entitlement that we think if something doesn't go our way, we're going to get bailed out instantly. And these kids aren't developing the necessary skills to handle disappointment, to handle failure, to handle any situation that comes up that doesn't go in their favor, because everything has been, for a better or lack of words, like spoon-fed to them, and they've been able to get around it. Don't forget, so many schools now do not online learning, but like through computers. Your homework, your grades, everything is done through a computer now. So you're constantly getting this interaction with a screen rather than, pen to paper. And it's being translated not just in sports, but in every other aspect of the world, where everything is done on a little tiny screen. And that's the way kids are conditioned. It's like, oh, I messed up. Like you said, reset. And so it's hard to develop those, necessary skills that we had when we were growing up, the problem solving skills, and they don't have it as much as they did before.
Bingo. Great call, Sam. Really appreciate you hanging on and being part of the program right there. Yeah, coping skills.
Thanks, Sam.
Just that adjustment, right? Learning.
Yeah, I think just the ability to handle adversity and not be bailed out, like you said, or not just look at it like things aren't fair. And again, I'm kind of going back to, because I definitely get the argument of, and I agree with, like, if you're playing multiple club soccers club sports, or like you don't even have the time probably to do that. But I guess I'm looking more at like, Joe Musgrove, who played football and baseball, or Jackson Merrill, who played soccer and baseball. And like eventually you have to, go to your lane and stay in your lane. But I didn't realize that even as kids, it sounds like to play in any of this costs a lot of money. And I guess I felt like it was more on the affordable side, which it doesn't sound like it is anymore. But I also think that it's important what you pointed out about the influencers, because when we were growing up and stuff, and I think kids of yesteryear, the athletes are kind of your heroes, and now it's a lot of times your heroes are the influencers, or your heroes are the Twitch guys, or your heroes are, you have your role models have become different.
Right.
And so maybe that pull also to sports has become a little bit different for some of these kids.
I think that's very true. Well, if you want your kids to develop coping and problem-solving skills, just go ahead and make them a Padres fan, because coping is where we live. That's where we live. That's where we're forced to live right now, Annie, because if you want to crown their butts, you got to crown them. The Dodgers are the best team this year. They beat us. We had a chance. They shut us out 24 straight innings. Tip of the cap to the men in blue. You hate to do it. You have to do it. They made lunch meat of the Mets. And now the low-energy Yankees are on the verge of being swept out of the World Series with barely a peep to their name. Barely a peep that's even been made over 3 games when they've scored 7 lousy runs total.
You don't want to go out this way, Yankees. Think of the New York Post and the headlines and the page 6 and all that. Like, they're going to have a field day with you. You don't want to do this. You gotta come back. You gotta win. As who said it, Adam? Who said you have to win 4 games? It was
Garrett Cole.
Garrett Cole said you have to win 4 games in order to win the World Series. Well, it starts with winning 1. You got to win 1 tonight. You're so against this. You do not think this is happening at all.
You literally can't win 4 games at once. So, I mean, you're completely correct about this. But, no, I think the Yankees are toast.
Yeah.
I think they're completely done.
It's been tough because they just have looked a little flat. They just haven't looked like, they're putting up much of a fight, even going back to New York. And, yeah, I do. I think, like we said earlier today and we said yesterday, I think that the hardest team for the Dodgers was the Padres.
There's no question about it. What are your thoughts on Shohei playing while putting his arm in a sling, and then when he reached base, holding his arm to his chest as if it were in a sling?
I thought it was a bit much. I thought, what are we doing? We got to sit down. Like we once you're holding your arm up, and he was running to first holding his arm up like that, it's like, maybe we shouldn't be playing. I don't know. I get it. It's Shohei Ohtani, and the best that are like the minuscule version of Shohei Ohtani is still better than no Shohei Ohtani at all. I know Dave Roberts said yesterday the presence of him in the box is a pressure for the pitchers, which I believe. But you got to, that didn't look, I saw him take some swings. He did all right. But when you're running and you can't even swing your arm because you got to hold it there like it's in a sling.
Yeah.
I just wonder what you're really able to do.
I mean, to be honest with you, when I was listening to that game and Clark Schmidt walks Ohtani on 4 pitches, I'm just like, you guys aren't even here to play.
Yeah, the first AB, you mean?
Yeah,
the first, yeah.
This guy,
or the first.
You should have watched him run out for the warm-up with his arm in a sling. Throw the ball down the middle. Like right down Broadway.
Had trouble. I mean, he didn't throw any strikes. It was 4 straight balls.
I know.
Yeah.
It was pathetic. Honestly, it was pathetic. So, right, did that mean that he was intimidated by Shohei Ohtani?
I thought maybe he was. I thought maybe he was having a trouble settling in. Do you?
I think this is some crazy. I don't even know. Does Shohei feel a cultural responsibility to be on the field because the entire nation of Japan is watching him?
I bet he does, and I think he probably feels just a wanting to be part of it still, and seeing what Freddie Freeman did on his ankle, and I do think the Japan thing has a huge part of it. Just people are watching, they're tuned in to see him.
Yeah, I agree. And the Dodgers are just playing along. And I think it's crazy. Honestly, I think it's crazy. Like,
did he have any hits last night, or did he?
No, he just walked and scored that run.
Okay.
Yeah. He's not. He's hurt. He's literally hurt. He's just going to play hurt.
Or is it game? Yeah, I see the comment in the chat. Is it gamesmanship? Is it just another storyline detail to talk about the adversity that they faced? It could be. It could be.
Hey, Ken Rosenthal, do you see that sling that Ohtani's wearing? Isn't that sinister? Is that a sinister sling? Or is that, oh, no, that's a good sling. That's a heroic sling. It's not a sinister one? Good call.
God.
I need money. Good call. I need money in the chat.
It's,
And yes, no, I also agree. Like, this is the kind of stuff that drives me crazy. And like my buddy Big Tony has been texting me. He's a huge Dodgers fan. I've known him for years and years. And like, no, Ohtani's this really good guy. In the clubhouse, everyone knows him. He's gotten to meet him once. He's down to earth. He speaks English. Like, I'd love to see an ounce of that in the American public. I'd love to see an ounce of it. I'd love to know.
I'd love to see an article that's Machado's mid-throw or something, like his, meaning it was not a sinister sling. It was just a throw to the dugout.
That would have been nice. That would have been nice.
That we will not see on either case. I thought about the Ohtani thing a little bit yesterday. I think it's like it's just so much easier, I think, to be relatable to certain people, or to be relatable to people when they kind of expose a little bit of themselves that has, struggled with certain things or that has overcome certain things. And sometimes it's just hard to relate to someone who. Russell Wilson is another example, like in terms of they just seem so perfect, and they're not,
right.
That they've got their own adversities or issues or whatever. And it's not, they don't owe it to us to have to tell us about it, but there is something that just is kind of like hard to relate to, I think, on that. And maybe you shouldn't have to relate to, Shohei Ohtani's as we know, a generational player, a unicorn. Maybe the point is that you don't relate to him.
Maybe that's it. But I'll just say this as we go to break. One thing we love to do in American culture is put someone on a pedestal. And the only thing we love to do more than that is to knock them off.
Lance Armstrong, Tiger Woods.
Yep. So Shohei can do no wrong. Shohei is superhuman. Shohei is better than everyone. Hurt shoulders only matter to you, not to Shohei. All that stuff is a setup for a fall.
Like if he's in Japan, if he's more open about things, like if he's more, I don't know what he's being advised. I don't know, but maybe in Japan he does do more outward things.
It'd be great to hear. It'd be great. Listen, I'm not criticizing Shohei Ohtani. He's the best player in baseball, blah, 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 blah. Just the point is, the dude's shoulder is hurt. I don't need the performance of him running around the field carrying his arm around like that. Like, they don't need you that much, bro.
I just Googled Shohei Ohtani just to see what was new today. He picked up the tab for the Dodgers team dinner on Jack Flaherty's birthday.
Well, congratulations. What a saint. What a sainted human being. What an absolute
there's
saint.
nothing wrong
There's
with
nothing wrong with him at all.
Not at all.
No, he's actually perfect.
And
perfect in every way.
You can't stand it. What if it's just
maybe he's perfect.
I don't think he's perfect, but what if it's just he's never that controversial? You know what I mean? Like maybe he just kind of
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. I'm not going to bet on it. When we come back, did you see the NFL is doing? They're doing it again. They're doing it again. Themed broadcast. What animation is it going to be this time? An animation explanation when we return. Plus, now that the Yankees are about to be canned, they have to sign Juan Soto, right? Like, have to?
I feel like they do if
They
they
have
want to keep their fans happy.
Have to? We'll talk about it when we come back. Annie and Elsten roll until 2. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back, everybody. 1:25 is the time. Annie and Elsten is the show. Just goofing with Adam during the break.
I think Shota in the chat makes a good point about Ohtani. If you have been to a game in the press box with Shohei Ohtani, there's like 50 media there that's just Japanese media just for him. And he doesn't even talk every day. It's just following him around, everything he does. And he's had that in droves, like since he was a kid, you know, and even more than that. Like, so probably you reach a point where you just like you don't want to give too much up, or you don't want to like allow for any kind of headlines or anything like that. Like you're just being scrutinized like crazy every single day.
And I get it. There's two ways to go with that, right? There's the direction of I'm going to be radically open, like just, you know, open everything up and show my humanity, or corporation. We're going to be a corporation. This is going to be a brand. This is going to be hermetically sealed. It's impenetrable. No one gets in, no one gets out. And that's what that's obviously the direction he went. I couldn't blame him at all. I think you bring up tremendous, like, how much would that affect you if when you were 14 that was happening, and now you're 30 and it's been happening literally over half your life, that you've had that level of scrutiny, level of inspection.
And the pressure for these international players, Ha-Seong Kim, Yu Darvish, Shohei Ohtani, to make their country proud and to be like the guiding light for these games and for these people who are watching and everything like that. Like, there's got to be intense pressure on all these players.
Well, that's why March was so shocking and jarring when the betting scandal came out, because I thought this was the perfect human, right? I thought this was the perfect person, and he's so enlightened, he's so smart. And so then the idea of, well, wait, he's both all those things and all the things in the corporate world, but he's also a child who allows someone else to have carte blanche to run everything and literally doesn't notice when $20 million is stolen from him.
I don't think he's perfect. I bet you, I mean, what do we know about, like, you know, again, he
How would
doesn't
we
owe us
know?
that, right? But I don't think he's perfect. I don't think anyone's perfect.
No. Well, I don't mean either.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's perfect either. No question. When you're portrayed as being perfect, then it's difficult. Then that's what I was talking about, pedestals and getting knocked off pedestals, because it's pretty hard for anyone to look at someone and go, oh, yeah, they're just fundamentally perfect. There's nothing wrong with them. Nothing ever happens to them. They're just all good things. You know, it's difficult. All of us look at that and go, that can't be right, because it's not right for me. So how could it be right for you?
Yeah, I think over the years, like, we'll see if there's any kind of loosening of the reins or any kind of, like, probably still will be very tight in some ways, but any kind of more of a presence, and whether or not he chooses to do that, I don't think it'll affect like his legacy or anything, but but I think, you know, in terms of just sometimes the superstars having that kind of a presence that can affect more than what happens on the field, you got to do that. You got to open up a little bit.
From that, in this little grab bag segment here on Annie and Elsten, to the opponent to L.A., Juan Soto, this could be his last game as a New York Yankee tonight. If the Yankees...
Paging Scott Boras.
Right. If the Yankees get swept out, that's it. He's no longer a Yankee. He's a free agent. I remember when the Astros lost and Garrett Cole in the Astros locker room after the final game had his Boras hat on instead of his Astros hat.
Who had it?
Garrett Cole.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The
He's
offseason
making a statement.
The offseason before he signed for all the money with the Yankees. He was already wearing a Boras hat instead of an Astros hat in the Astros locker room after the Astros lost. Like, pretty wild.
Yeah, it's quite the message there.
Will that be Juan Soto tonight? I don't know.
If he wears a Boras hat, he might.
He might.
Scott Boras might say, put this on. And he might say, okay.
Yeah, you're not a Yankee anymore, dude.
Yeah.
Like, don't give him a 1 second of brand that you don't have to. Move on. You are your own brand now. You are the Soto brand. It could be the case. The long-standing speculation has been that Soto will either land with the Yankees or that the Mets will overpay to bring Juan across the boroughs, to Queens. And I tend to align with that. I think it's going to be one or the other. There was some obviously, in my mind, cynical manipulation of his favorite puppets by Scott Boras yesterday. We talked about that, including throwing out that Soto could sign with the Dodgers. I looked at their roster resource this morning just to see if it was completely insane or not. I mean, it is completely insane because the Dodgers, like, tonight, right? They win tonight. All the free agents drop off their team. All the contracts that end in 24 end.
Right.
All of that, right? For 2025, they're already over the second apron. Like with no Teoscar, with anyone else that's off the team, they're already over the second apron.
Are the Yankees and Mets in a equally bad
situation?
Yeah.
Pretty much. But the point is, if the Dodgers, for example, wanted to re-sign Teoscar Hernandez or wanted to play someone in, right, it's going to cost a lot of money. If they wanted to make it Soto, it will put them well into the fourth penalty level where they're paying 110% of every dollar that's over that apron.
I mean, for what it's worth, Jeff Passan was talking about it yesterday and said he doesn't think he's going to sign with the Dodgers. He said, looking at how the Dodgers run their organization and how many players have taken deferred money, and this would be a deviation from the norm for the Dodgers, and that he also doesn't believe that Juan Soto wants to be on the West Coast. I don't know if that's as much of a big deal, but if it does come out where it's like he was really important to him, I think the deal will be the number one most important thing for him. But if it ends up being that it was important for him to stay on the East Coast, it kind of flies in the face of everything Scott Boras said over the weekend, because he was never going to sign with the Padres, or not never, but there was he probably was going to keep those options open. I still have a hard time thinking too that Scott Boras wasn't going to take his prized possession of a player to free agency when that is the Scott Boras way.
Yes.
Unless the deal was just so incredibly wild that you just wouldn't turn it down. And keeping in mind that Juan Soto has already turned down a nearly $500 million deal. So it had to be something egregiously above that, right? Where he didn't think he'd get it in free agency. But so a lot of that, I think, will kind of come to fruition. But I also wonder how long it's going to take for Juan Soto. Is this going to be a free agent thing that drags all off season?
Yeah.
Is this going to get done quick like Shohei Ohtani's was? You don't think so, Adam?
I would lean
too
toward
big of
quick.
a contract, too many I's to dot, T's to cross, too many things.
I just don't know if there's so many teams in the mix. Like I wonder who can afford him.
But even if you just identify, I'm signing with the Dodgers, just negotiating that contract will take a fair amount of time.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely true. But I think personally that this World Series has locked it in, because I'm now thinking about the psychology of the Steinbrenners, okay, and then the folks in the front office at the Yankees, because think about their team, which is built on their MVP, Aaron Judge, their number one pitcher for $320 million, Garrett Cole, and Juan Soto, right? Judge, how's Judge going to even walk into a bodega in New York right now? Like, he's got one hit and everything is strikeouts for him in the World Series. He is a below 200 hitter in the postseason now for his entire postseason career, and he's been there every year because he plays for the Yankees.
There is going to be a tough reckoning for Aaron Judge, but I do think, and we had this conversation over the break, it's important to point out there's a lot of superstar players who have struggled in the postseason. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, before he was good in the postseason, wasn't. There's plenty of Padres, and then from series to series, guys struggle, right? Like someone might have a great DS but a horrible CS, or a great World Series but a horrible DS and CS. It's hard in the postseason, but overall, I'm seeing 196, right? 196 for Aaron Judge overall in his postseason. It's not a great. I mean, you do hear that chatter. It's hard to shake that off. It's like the NFL guys who are so good in the regular season and then not good in the playoffs.
So I'm thinking about it from the standpoint of, okay, if you're the Yankees and your fan base is completely devastated, you get swept in the World Series, right? That You
That's
warm
gonna
up
hurt
after
too.
you warm up after time to the fact that you won the pennant, but a World Series sweep really hurts. Aaron Judge's reputation is taking a massive blow because no matter how well he's doing in July next year, people will be like, "Well, but we get to October,
That's the hard part.
he's going to fall
Yeah.
apart again."
It's like, who was the redheaded quarterback? Andy Dalton? Who am I
Yeah.
thinking of?
The Red Rifle, Andy Dalton.
Was he bad in the post? He was either good or bad in the post. I forget. There was someone who, it's like the
yeah.
quarterbacks that like you
Peyton
hear
Manning even.
right. You hear all the talk of like, well, yeah, regular season great, winning the division great, but how are you going to? This guy always chokes in the postseason. It's hard to shake that.
So imagine they've lost the series. They get swept out of the series. Judge is completely unreliable because he's just had his nightmare postseason. Stanton is getting older, right? There's very little else to look around at the Yankees and go, this is exciting. They can keep talking about Jason Dominguez all they want, but he hasn't done anything. He's not coming off the bench. He's not walking through that door. So just imagine all of this, and then Soto leaves to go to your in-city rival.
The Mets.
The Mets. On top of everything else, then he leaves too. And he's in your city not playing for you. I find this to be impossible.
You're seeing him at the restaurants.
Right.
You're seeing him around town on Fifth Avenue, but he's wearing that Mets hat.
That's for those reasons, I believe the Yankees will pay top dollar, pay more than they want, pay more than Hal Steinbrenner wants, and keep Juan Soto, because if they had won the World Series, then it'd been like, well, yeah, he did the job, but look at us. We won the World Series. Okay, Soto, he's asking for too much.
Yeah.
Via con Dios. Enjoy. Go do it somewhere else.
So much easier after you win a World Series to make those kinds of changes.
Right.
Everyone's on the high still. You can kind of do a lot.
The Braves let Freddie Freeman go
Exactly.
right after winning the World Series.
Right.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
you can, hey, look, we got Matt Olson. Oh, look, we won.
We got
I
our
can now
ring.
just
The Yankees could literally sign Teoscar Hernandez and say,
Right.
here's our Juan Soto replacement.
right. They can,
It's a lot easier to choke down or to swallow after you win a World Series.
That's
There's
it.
a lot you can do.
Yeah. So my bottom line is, because of this result, it's now to me gone from like 88% that he's going to be a Yankee to 99%.
I mean, the fans are clamoring for it. The fans in New York have been since really he signed there, and especially it started to heat up over the summer and then into the postseason. They want this guy back, so there's probably pressure on the organization to get this done.
yeah, because you need to give those fans who pay the highest ticket prices hope. You have to have them going into 2025 feeling like the next 5 years aren't hopeless. And if you don't have Soto on the team, I think there's an argument to be made that the Yankees feel a little bit hopeless at that point. Like, okay, well, keep hitting your regular season homers. Mr. May Part 2, Aaron Judge. That was the famous stigma on Dave Winfield. He went 1 for 22 in the 1981 World Series, and George Steinbrenner named him Mr. May because Reggie Jackson was Mr. October. He's like, okay, well, yeah, you're Mr. May. You're good in the regular season. You're useless to me in the postseason. And honestly, Aaron Judge is becoming Mr. May Part 2 for the New York Yankees.
I've got the numbers here also. In 2022, the year he hit 62 home runs. It was MVP over Ohtani in the AL. He then hit 139 with a 490 OPS in the postseason.
Right.
Well, and the Athletic, I think a few other places reported, but he had a private meeting, right, with Hal Steinbrenner. Soto did. I see it about a month ago. Maybe there has been some talk. Soto declined to reveal specifics of what he talked about. So did Scott Boras. Maybe they're getting to know each other more of late.
Well, and here's the last thing. I really like this in the chat. Chatter we haven't seen before, Death by Palm Tree. Ooh, that sounds unpleasant. Says, you're thinking about it wrong, Craig. The World Series is showing that they need more than Judge and Soto, and they can't do it if they sign Soto to a $40 million a year deal.
That's a good point.
They could spend Soto's money on other players, and he lists other players.
They need, too. We were just talking about it in the break.
Right.
Adam was saying that they have a roster. They have needs, that Yankees team.
They really do, and that's a very savvy, business-like way to think about it, Death by Palm Tree.
I wonder how you got that name.
I'm curious, but I don't want to explore too deep, go too far below the surface on that. But I'm not looking at it from the analytical, what would be the best thing for the Yankees side. I'm looking at it from the PR, how do we keep our fans from rioting side? And I think Soto keeps them from rioting because they kept the thing that they trade. You're telling me we traded Michael King and Higashioka, we get one lousy year and then he's gone? Like that's the side I'm looking at. It's not the rational side. It's the emotional side, but the Yankees could totally make that mistake. Let's find out if they do. Okay, timeout. I'll just say it because I did mention it. Are you going to watch the December Bengals Cowboys NFL game that is going to be animated by The Simpsons?
No.
You're not going to?
I don't know. Maybe. I didn't watch, the SpongeBob one.
Yeah.
I should watch one of these because I know it's cool.
They're
cool, aren't they?
Cool.
They're pretty cool. Yeah. And I think they're going to have, we can get into it at the break, but I forget all their characters' names.
Well, they'll
someone's
have
on the
Bart,
sideline.
they'll have Homer.
Yeah.
And I think Marge is doing interviews.
Lisa's doing
interviews.
Yeah.
So, is this the promotional video, Adam?
This
On our
can't be it.
YouTube?
Is this it?
Will, of spirit, of determination, in which ultimately only one can prevail. When these two ancient foes face off on Monday Night Football, it's more than just football. It's family. It's Bart and the Bengals versus Homer and the Cowboys, live from Springfield.
Listen, we talk about the NFL. The NFL, I'm telling, that's a good. They've been doing this now for years, or their slime things or whatever.
Yeah.
They attract viewers with it. It's
They
a
take
good
chances.
idea. They take chances. They do it well. Yeah, that looked pretty funny actually. I want to probably watch that.
I assume
At least a quarter.
that the Bengals will win because All right, when we come back, it's our final segment of the day, and it's time to ask us anything. All right, give us a call during the timeout. You've got a solid 10 minutes to call the program. 833-288-0973 is our number. 833-288-0973. Dial us up. Adam will screen you up, and we will take your calls on the other side of the break. All we ask is that you come prepared with a question to ask the program. Ask Us Anything is next on The Fan. Wrapping things up on Annie and Elsten. Gwen and Chris in the house, standing by, ready to roll at 2 o'clock. We're about to head to the phones. Real quick, I just wanted to put this in your mind. If you are, a Padre fan that's got a long memory, it's time to take Paul George out of your good column and put him into your lousy column. You may remember this. Adam has put the Paul George quote up on our screen on YouTube. These were the words that Paul George said at Petco Park. Quote, "The Padres embraced me. Yeah, they embraced me. They took me in." The interviewer could not believe that George was genuinely a fan of the Padres, so he doubled down and asked them if they were just clout chasing by welcoming him. Paul George immediately shot it down and said it was genuine love between both parties. "Nah, they're not clout chasing," George said. "Yeah, they embraced me, took me in, and I did the whole oath. I'm down on the oath. I like the team. I wasn't a big baseball fan going into it, so I was a free agent. They picked me up, and I'm down with them ever since."
I don't know this story, so I don't know where you're going with it, but I do know Paul George was in the clubhouse. Oh, no!
There we go. There's the shot. Here's the chaser. Paul George in his Dodgers hat and Dodgers sweatshirt hanging out with Sabrina Ionescu at Game 3.
I talked to Paul George when he was first visiting Petco Park, and he did say, I was a free agent, hadn't gone to any baseball games, thought the Padres were cool, came down, got the red carpet treatment, got to go in the clubhouse. Yep, there he is sitting in the Gucci seats. Okay. The whole shebang. Got the jersey, the hat, everything. So if you're not watching on YouTube, there he is in a Dodgers jersey. What was that? Yesterday? This week?
Yesterday. At Game 3. Repping the blue.
Oh, man.
PG-13, you dead to me.
Now, he left the Clippers and went where?
To Philly.
Maybe he felt like once he went to Philly, he could change his allegiance.
Shows you, where was the oath? What happened to the oath, Paul?
But he didn't choose the
Phillies.
Phillies.
Choose the Phillies, right.
He chose the city where he formerly played.
The Phillies would have been the right move there, or at least a move you could understand a little better. Oh, Paul George.
You're
Paul
a crap
George, you were in the
keeper.
clubhouse. You were doing the whole thing. They put him on the video board. Oh, yeah.
You're a crap oath keeper, Paul George.
Can't trust no one.
Crap. All right, let's hit the bumper.
Her name is Annie. His name is Craig. They're joined by Braden. But who are they really? Never hurts to ask. It's time to ask us anything on Annie and Elsten.
Paul George heel turn. Get the hell out of here. Let's hit we got a lot of folks online, and we got 4 minutes and 6 seconds. So let's start rolling. Here's Alex in Fallbrook at the top of the list. Hi, Alex. Ask us anything.
My two favorite people. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is not a popular subject in my house, but what's for dinner in your house tonight?
What's for dinner in your house, Annie?
I haven't even thought about. Oh, I have soup. I have like a vegetable lentil soup.
Yeah, we have some leftover broccoli potato soup. I think that's actually.
There you go.
Yeah, so soup.
It's
soup,
not that
Alex.
exciting. Yeah.
Boring ass soup. Here's Johnny in Forest Ranch. Hi, Johnny.
Question.
Ask us anything.
Hello, Annie, Craig, and today, Adam.
Hello.
Adam waved. You couldn't hear it.
Okay, I have two questions today. The first one, this is specifically for you, Craig. As a Tottenham Hotspur FC fan, they do have a nickname. Do you know what it is?
Huh? What? Do I have a nickname?
Tottenham.
Tottenham. The Spurs.
Yeah, Tottenham. Sorry.
No, I don't know. What's Tottenham's nickname?
They're called the Lily Whites.
The Lily Whites. Why?
Yeah.
I shudder to ask.
Usually they wear white.
Oh, okay, because of their uniform color. Got it. Not because not because of the color of their fan base or something. The Lily Whites.
No, I don't think so. And I know that I brought this up because a lot of people don't like that European football clubs don't have nicknames. They do. They just don't use them very often.
That's fair. Like Manchester, the Red Devils, right? For United, right?
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, part two.
Awesome. Part two. Okay, this one's a little bit more in depth. What do you think, if you were commissioner of Major League Baseball, do you think that you could use the European soccer transfer system instead of what we currently have? So, the buying and selling, they do have swaps. Do you think that could be used in baseball?
Wow, so now you'd be selling Soto to the Mets.
Correct.
for however much you could get from him. It'll never happen, Johnny. It'll never happen. But it's fun to think about.
Appreciate the question.
And I'll think about it more once we're off the show. Here's Chris in Pacific Beach. Hi, Chris.
Hey, guys. One question for you in Shohei vein here is, where is Ipe?
Jail?
We think he's in Hawaii in the new house that Shohei bought. Just
thought he was in
chilling.
jail.
No,
Isn't
I
he
think
in
he's in
jail?
jail. I think he's in jail. Yeah, I don't know.
He's in jail.
We don't hear from him, but I guess you wouldn't hear from him if he's in jail.
Well, I mean, yeah, they don't
Yeah,
usually.
right. We're not doing a ton of interviews, right? So,
I don't know if he ever went to jail, but I'm not sure where he went.
I mean, supposedly,
I'm Googling is Ipe in jail.
he.
No, he is scheduled to be sentenced.
Oh,
Well, he was sentenced, I guess, this week.
we didn't hear anything about it.
So it says he was scheduled to be sentenced on October 25th.
Keeping that out of the broadcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
funny
supposed
how
to
that
be this
didn't,
week.
Funny
That's
how that
interesting.
didn't make it, Chris. Huh? Funny how that didn't make the show. Real quick, Will in Oceanside, I want to sneak you in. Hi, Will. Ask us anything.
Yes, guys. Part two for a question I asked last week. You guys get to play A.J. Preller. My question is, I've got a frontline starting pitcher. The only thing is you got to give me Salas and you got to give me Bogarts, and I'll take Bogarts off your hand. I'll take the comment off the air. Thanks.
Wait, what is the question?
So the idea that Will is presenting is something I've even heard our boss present once, which is like the only way you would lose a big contract like a Bogarts is attaching a prospect like a Salas
like
to
a
it.
Salas or a DeVries.
Yeah. I don't see it happening.
I personally don't see it happening, but I think it is the way that you would probably get something like that done. You'd probably have to pay some of that money as well.
Yeah. And I don't know if you'd get back the thing you wanted that would make you good enough to make that worth it. But those are really good questions.
Great
Emily,
questions,
sorry
guys.
we didn't get to you. Please call us back tomorrow. Andy and I'll be right back with 4 more hours at 10. But stay tuned. Gwen and Chris are next on The Fan.